And welcome back to another special edition of the Michael Decon program. I look forward to once again serve you those sounds of salvation. First time listeners, turn on, tune in, and drop out. This is a very different kind of show, a place where we don't feel so alone. Let us chase away the light no matter what you at home choose to believe. I do admire you for your curiosity. Yes, in fact, I censored myself. I didn't say let us chase away the light, because that would be wrong. My guest this evening is Dr. Paul Cottrell, backed by popular demand. And Paul, of course, has been on this show numerous times, and we will be talking about, oh yes, you guessed it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing me into your hearts and into your minds. Here we are again on a night like this. And it's so good to see all of you out there yet again. It truly is. Just yesterday you saw me. Well, you didn't see me, you actually heard me. But regardless, it's nice to see all of you out there in the chat room. Tonight will be a bit of a rattlesnake. I hope none of you were out there protesting in Michigan or at the beach in Jacksonville. Regardless, I'm glad you're alive out there. Now, without further ado, let's bring in Mr. Mike Hideous and Dr. Paul Cottrell. One moment.
Extended the shelter in place until May 15th. So, so we got another 4 weeks to go. So, it mentally it's taxing. I mean, I've already had it in terms of, not being able to just do the normal things that you would do at this time of the year outside.
And Paul, by the way, I have to say we were cut off momentarily again. My computer, for some reason, likes to auto-mute everyone for some odd reason now. But regardless, I want to welcome both of you back on the program. Mike, I'm glad you're here. We were having difficulty with your computer, my computer, and now everyone can hear us finally. Paul, thank you so much for being here.
Hello, Paul.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you for having me, Michael.
Oh, yes. And they didn't hear me asking you how you've been doing holding up, being sequestered out there in New York.
I'm hanging in there. They've extended the shelter in place for another 4 weeks until May 15th. And it's wearing on me psychologically. I think it would anybody. And the weather is getting nicer. I want to, walk around. I want to, I have a dog. I want, the dog to, play around in the parks and stuff. And you just can't do that right now.
Gosh.
Right. Unfortunately, you cannot. And Paul, by the way, how have you been sleeping? I'm just curious.
Not very well. I mean, I typically go to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning and, wake up at about, depending on the day, 9 to 10 a.m.
You're like
so
me.
I'm staying up late. And I used to go to bed at 10 o'clock, 10 p.m., 10:30. I wasn't a night owl until this happened. But a lot of people are starting to say the same things.
Yeah.
And so when I do a premiere, sometimes I do it really late at night just for those people that can't sleep. they have insomnia or they're worried or whatever. And it's just, they come and watch whatever I'm saying to chat away with other people that are having the same problems. It's
I'm
kind of
with
like
you.
a little group, a little, self-help group in a way.
I haven't been able to sleep either, and Mike is the same way.
Yep.
It's been a weird time for everyone out there, and of course, lots of individuals out there, Paul, still believe that this is a hoax.
Well, I think I can prove, emphatically that it's not a hoax, that it's very real, that viruses really do exist, that we are having people die. People that are close to me or are friends with have family members that are sick with COVID-19 or have died from COVID-19. So these people that say that it doesn't exist is totally false. And I am privy, because of just kind of the unique position I'm in, to gain the trust of some nurses and some doctors that contact me behind the scenes and tell me what is going on and how they're treating or changing the protocols, changing their thinking process as this disease continues to present itself in the ER. And I get to see CT scans, and my background in pre-med and master's in biology, as I work on my thesis, I can read a little bit of CT and X-rays, and you will not believe the difference normal pneumonia is on a CT versus what this is. It is radically different. I mean, it looks like little jewels inside the lung that are just glistening. That is not normal. That is not normal pneumonia. And that's why there's this big debate. Do you put them on an intubator or not? If you put them on an intubator, if you have a high tidal flow rate, then you're doing more damage. So there's this debate within the clinical community. Do you put them on an intubator? Maybe you're hurting them. Maybe you're speeding up the death, even though logically they're in hypoxia. They don't have enough oxygen in their blood, so they're thinking, well, put them on intubate them, put them on a ventilator so you get more oxygen in. It makes sense, right?
Right.
Well, they're finding out that by doing that, it's causing more damage to the air sacs. So they're changing their protocols. Plus, there's this fine line. Some could be ARDS, where intubation helps, but many are not ARDS, so intubation doesn't help. So it's a very complex disease. It's attacking the lung, as many have known, all the way back to when we were talking about in Wuhan, but it's also attacking the brain through the olfactory, and it creeps up, through the nervous system and houses itself in the basal ganglia, and it attacks the blood cells. I had an MD behind the scenes contact me that said the autopsies are showing high viral load in T cells. And if you remember, I was telling you about the 5 receptors.
Yeah.
That this could infect. Well, one of the receptors that those T cells that have the high viral load, it's the CD147 receptor. And if you remember, it was the GRP78 receptor, the CD147, the CD209, and the CD299 receptors, in addition to the ACE2. So we already have 3 research papers that have been released in about a week and a half ago that state that they have evidence of T cells being infected by the virus going through the CD147 pathway. And we have autopsy data that's showing it. So it's real. It's very, very real. Now the question is how do we treat this? Because I don't think it's not one size fits all. It's not, there's not a magic bullet. Some people are doing well with hydroxychloroquine, with the Z-Pak and the zinc. Some are not. Part of it's because of comorbidity. Part of it is maybe that only works if you catch it early enough. If you catch it too late, it may not work so well. So it just depends. There's no magic bullet here right now. And then there's the civil liberties. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Is this because that this virus was genetically mutated, or I should say, it was genetically engineered with the AIDS virus?
Yes. The affinity, the special affinity it has, it supercharges the S spike protein with those 4 HIV inserts. Now, on the surface, it's not a full glycoprotein 120. The glycoprotein 120 on HIV-1, which is the main group of HIV for humans, the human HIV virus. Right. There's different groups. There's actually HIV-1 and HIV-2, but the one that most people focus on is something called HIV-1. And within that group is the M group. Within that there's a subgroup within that. Now, the spike protein for HIV-1 is the glycoprotein 120. So they took pieces of that and put it on the spike protein of the coronavirus, the beta coronavirus from bats and SARS. And they supercharged, exactly. And they supercharged it. And what has happened? The research papers going all the way back to 2008, they did that to jump from bat ACE2 receptors to human ACE2 receptors. And they used the HIV, what they call pseudovirus, to do it. And that was like the genesis of this, and they tweaked it and they honed it, they got it better. But I think an emergent property happened when they did that, and that was that it gave it special abilities to be able to infect your blood cells. And you have red blood cells and you have white blood cells. And specifically those white blood cells, it's infecting antigen-presenting T cells. So it's a big problem. I call it now. I did a video maybe 3-4 days ago. I said that it has emerged into an AIDS-like syndrome.
Yeah,
very true.
It's not exactly AIDS, but it's
certainly like it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
it's down-regulating the immune system, and we're going to see not just people passing away from COVID-19 disease, but this thing is going to stay dormant within cells that are in the G0 cycle, where cells aren't dividing. And what that does is it keeps the viral load low. And then all of a sudden the cell will start to multiply and the viral load will spike. And then, and start to, spread in the body. Now, when the virus is dormant, the question is, does it do it something like AIDS does, where it maintains down-regulating the T cell? If it does, then what will happen is that strange diseases like different carcinomas,
right,
or very strange pneumonias will pop up. Very similar to what happened with AIDS patients. They had a special pneumonia that was infected by primarily through yeast, an overgrowth of yeast infection in their lungs. So your body will go out of homeostasis, and you'll start hearing about these like really rare things that shouldn't be happening because a normal immune system would fight it, kill it, and you're over. But if your immune system is down, just like people that have cancer, their immune systems are down because of the chemotherapy. They have to be in clean rooms, a big part of their treatment, so they don't get sick.
Right.
Let me ask you a question, Paul.
Yeah.
I've had cancer in my life 7 times, starting from when I was 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
The first time I had chemotherapy was when I was 23. So that was 30 years ago. I've also had tons of radiation therapy and X-rays and all kinds of tests with radiation. For a person like myself, having had chemotherapy 30 years ago, I'm assuming that my immune system is still shot, and I'm suffering greatly from the radiation therapy that has affected my joints and so on and so forth. How dangerous is this to a person such as myself?
I think it's very dangerous. I think it's very, very dangerous, because you're already showing, you still are showing pro-inflammatory signs, because of the arthritis.
Right.
It's scary. I mean, just try to stay as healthy as you can, Mike. I mean, I know that's easy to say and not so easy to do, but I mean, people that have had chronic illnesses, or severe illnesses like what you're talking about, they are put into the high risk category.
Right.
Do you still have to manage your cancer, using medication or anything like that, or
no?
So you're completely in remission, or?
Yeah. I mean, what I had 30 years ago was non-Hodgkins lymphoma. Since then, I've had other various cancers. Some were benign, 2 were benign, and the last 2 after that were prostate cancer, which was obviously malignant. So I don't know if prostate cancer is associated in any way with the same thing as like a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is I would think is different. Yes,
it is different.
Okay, so the non-Hodgkin's I had. They think I had it twice, but only the second time, or actually the third time around, that's when they definitely had diagnosed it as being non-Hodgkin's, and then I had the chemo and the radiation therapy to get rid of the tumors that I had. But again, that was 30 years ago.
Well, I had a great uncle. I've told the story about on my mom's side, how they escaped the Holocaust. My grandmother escaped the Holocaust. Well, one of my uncles, he was in the camps, and he survived the Holocaust. But when he got to about late 70s, early 80s, he died in his 90s. He developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. But the thing was is that he was so old that the cells weren't dividing fast enough. Now, it was killing him, but it was killing him much slower than someone that has it when they're younger.
Right.
See, it's related to the propagation of the cells. How fast do they divide? And for older people, when you're when you're in your early 80s, you're not dividing cells very often.
Right.
That's why you start seeing people, they age quicker every year because they're not replenishing those cells that are dying off.
Right.
So even though he did have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, he was able to have it for quite a while. I mean, he was being treated, but I mean, it wasn't really what killed him. It was really just old age. But
I understand what you're saying. Listen, Michael, before I ask these questions, I have a couple questions for Paul, but I want to keep it so that we can get through the show. And what I want to do is I wanted to ask you these questions, Paul, and just keep your answers to about maybe a 2-minute answer, if you can do that, if it's possible. This way we can get through a couple of them and I don't take up all the time. And then this way Michael can ask whatever he wants. Michael, is that all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So there's a lot of people out there that are saying that, there's a lot of conspiracy theories going around. One of them is that China did this on purpose, and that here's one particular interesting one that we found out about a week ago, that China was allegedly hired by the Obama administration to work on this virus in the lab and mutate it. Allegedly, China is now allegedly taking offense to being blamed for this and said that they will now blow the whistle on the Obama administration if indeed they continue to blame China. Any comments on that?
Okay, this is what we think happened. Back in 2008, or maybe a little bit earlier, but definitely 2008, they were successful in being able to jump species and infect the human ACE2 receptor. This is the 2008 paper that I keep on referencing. This was done by a group of researchers from actually Wuhan. Dr. Shi and Dr. Pyong Zhao, I keep on mentioning, are on that paper. Dr. Shi was a minor player on that paper, a minor co-author. Dr. Shi is in the United States working with a team to enhance this virus, quote, study it for gain of function, what they call gain of function, which basically means what other things can it attach to? What other things could it do? Such as like infect the brain, infect the, the blood, attack different receptors. So that's what they were designed to study.
Right.
Obama shuts down the program at Fort Detrick in 2014. Fauci's department under the NIH, he's NIAID, and he writes checks to different labs across the world to continue the research on gain of function for this particular coronavirus that was built. So Fauci has his signature on grants going to Wuhan.
That's right.
So, and then they continue the research. And then I think what happened, it was that it went dark at P4 and they, had their own, China said, okay, we're going to have our own weapons program. So there was this, I keep on mentioning a scientific line and a weapons line. And I believe what leaked out due to something accidental that happened at the P4 lab, I think that what happened was that they were handling primates and somehow the primate infected one or two or three of the researchers at the P4 lab. They thought they contained it. They didn't seem to have any symptoms. They went home and voila, it's out of the lab. I think that's what happened. Now, I don't think it was on purpose. I don't think it was leaked on purpose, but I still think that it was, but there was a weapons program for sure.
Right. And Paul,
it starts at Fort Detrick.
Paul, I just wanted to quickly mention before I interrupt Mike's question here. Me and you talked about this way in the beginning, and I speculated that no doubt this was a bioweapon. And I hate to be right, but that's what it seems like.
So the question is, but the question, Michael, is is the Obama administration definitely involved in this?
Well, Fauci's money under the Obama administration paid for the research going right to the Wuhan virology lab.
So yes, is pretty much the answer.
Yes.
Follow the money trail.
And Fauci was the one that wrote the check.
Do you think this has anything whatsoever to do with the fact that maybe this again, another conspiracy theory, that this was somewhat or either accidentally or possibly released to affect the Trump administration to say that he is incompetent as the president and get him out?
I think that's so diabolical. I don't think anyone would go down that road because.
Thank goodness you said that. Thank you.
I just say, because there's no antidote. You'd be infecting. This is the reason why the military doesn't want to really use bioweapons, because you can't control it once you release it.
Right.
You don't know how it's going to mutate. You can't control its contagion. Your soldiers can get infected. It could gain function. It's just, you're better to use a nuke because at least you know who you're nuking.
You're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. That's great. Thank you for that answer. I appreciate that. Now let me ask you this.
Hmm.
Do we need to worry about the second wave and when?
I think it's late October. And yes, I'm concerned that the second wave will be as bad as the first wave.
If not
And I think,
worse?
well, yeah, it could be. I mean, we're not done with the first wave yet, so we don't know how bad the first wave is. But,
Ugh.
because, we don't know when we reboot in New York after May 15th.
What's going to happen?
Is there a cross infection? Is there reinfection? Is there some sort of gain of function? I mean, we've already heard, we've been looking at this thing for 2 months, a little bit more than 2 months now. Maybe 3 or 4 months if you want to add in, Chinese data. And everyone was focused on ACE2. Now, only a week and a half later, the researchers are focusing on CD147. Well, what other receptors are we going to be focusing on once they understand more and more of the disease?
Ugh. Okay, so be that as it may, which leads me to the next question, based on what you just said. Now, people are starting to get antsy and protest to say that they want to get out. I just saw something online about people in California saying, open the beaches, we want to get out, open up California. Your replies, your opinion.
See, I don't want to see. Here's the problem. Going all the way back to Carter's administration with Brzezinski, he believed that you can manage the country, manage the world through technocracy, through elites within different siloed groups that have a certain understanding of that particular discipline. In this case, it would be science. So the scientists tell everybody what to do. Well, we're a democracy and, actually a constitutional republic, actually. But the reality of the situation is that there's a psychological component here. And I stated this with Michael on the first show. We have to manage this with compassion and not this top-down technocracy. If we are sheltered in place longer, we will be able to dampen the curve with more force. That's just a scientific fact. But the other side of the coin is people's psychological well-being being cooped up, for a potential 8 weeks, and a total of 8 weeks, and a lot of people getting laid off and getting stressed because of their finances.
Right.
So
I myself included.
Yeah. So I mean, so it's it's a fine balance. It's not just the scientific, it's also the psychological, and it's also the financial, and it all has to be balanced together. I actually smiled when I saw Lansing starting to protest against the governor. The people in Lansing, were
Why?
protesting because they were fed up with these laws that the governor was stating about shelter in place, and Michiganders were tired of it, and they protested.
So you think that they are? I mean, are you saying that you think that they're being foolish by protesting this?
It's not as simple as saying, are they foolish or not? They're not. Could they spread the disease by protesting the way they are? Yes, they could be.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I'm not so sure which is more dangerous, the virus or the loss of our civil liberties. And I would err on, telling the government to F off than to do shelter in place, because the erosion of our civil liberties is going to affect our children and our children's children. This virus is going to affect just us. And if we don't stand up to protect our civil liberties, we're going to lose our Constitution. And what's happening here, this may sound a little conspiratorial, but it's a real thing. It's a real virus. It's affecting people. It's killing people, but it's being used by the New World Order to erode our civil liberties and promote One Health. And that is an Agenda 21 operation. And you look at the history of Fauci, of Birx, they have had their hands in this from day one. Birx used to work at Fort Detrick in the 1990s. Isn't it odd that all the people that were involved in the weapons program for Fort Detrick happen to be on the team, the task force, the super task force for Trump? Very similar to what happened when Lehman blew up, where all the people that actually created Lehman were all the players that were helping Obama try to get out of the crisis. Specifically Larry Summers.
What a coincidence.
So are you saying that the administration that's in power now, the Trump administration, that they have a hand in it as well?
I'm saying that the people that are on the task force right now had a in-depth hand in the weapons program at Fort Detrick.
Wow.
Yes, and Fauci and Birx, definitely.
Okay, last question.
And then Redfield also.
Yikes. Last question, yes or no? Do you think the mainstream news is telling it like it is?
No.
Thought so.
When do they ever, Mike?
Well, that was my point.
I mean, really, when do they ever?
Because, Paul, being involved in the medical field as he is, I realize that he knows so much more than what's being told. And it seems to me that the mainstream media isn't getting up off their ass and really, diving into, to speaking to doctors and getting more. I mean, I shouldn't say that they're not speaking to doctors, but it seems that they're not giving us what we should really know, or more so.
I'm trying to inform the public the best I can on so many different channels, because there's so many different constituencies to try to reach out to, and it's to educate them on the science part, and the medicine part, and what this really is, and how it can affect you, how to try to protect your family, but also there is a sovereignty play here. There's a civil liberties issue here that's just as important to inform the public. And, I keep on, saying that right after 9/11, we had this Patriot Act that rolled in and eroded our civil liberties, ballooned out the government. We killed the bad guy, but we never went back to a pre-9/11 day. And now right. I'm seeing a Bio-Patriot Act creeping in that is going to force vaccinations. And, I'm against for it. Independent of someone's pro-vax or anti-vax, someone should have at least the right for consent, not be forced. And Cuomo is already stating on the news, he's priming the opinion already, saying you can't go back to work unless you have an antibody. Well, how do you get the antibody if you haven't been infected? You have to get a vaccine to get that. He doesn't say it that way. He just says you have to have an antibody to go back to work.
Well, it's a politician's talk.
Yeah, exactly.
A lawyer.
That's a very interesting time.
Oh my God, Paul! Every time we talk to you, I want to go shoot myself in the head.
This is a very interesting time, and of course, you mentioned the governor out there, and him fighting with Trump online and on television has been quite interesting, I must say. I never thought I'd see that, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Cuomo is he's priming for a 2024 run for the presidency, I think. If he does well in this crisis, then he'll say that he's got the street cred to to handle whatever comes at him as a president.
You know what? Better him than Bloomberg or Clinton.
Oh, I agree with that totally. But the thing is that before I decided to pursue biology and medicine, I worked for a very large nonprofit in New York City, and that nonprofit was able to help with the reconstruction after Hurricane Sandy. And there was a lot of funny business behind the scenes on how Cuomo was doing clawbacks on nonprofits, on how the FEMA money was being spent to help rebuild people's lives right after Sandy, because he was trying to fill a state budget hole. So, that's kind of inside baseball, but there is a mafiosa aspect to his personality.
It seems that way. And by the way, I do have audio of him going at Trump here. Let's play that for a moment.
Second, build the Javits into capacity. Let's keep a motion beds. Politics out of this. Wrong that it hasn't been used. About 800 people.
It seems like I'm echoing here. Let's not play that clip. Let's not anger the listeners out there. But I think they already heard that audio, actually. It's been all over the place. No use to play that. I apologize. But yeah, that was something else to actually see him and Trump face off. Of course, always interesting. And
there's this theory going on. I don't know if maybe Mike could interject on this, but it's like this. It's almost like wrestling, like fake wrestling.
Right. It's a shoot.
And it's like all show. To create diversion, distract. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like looking at WWF wrestling.
A lot of it is, really. A lot of it is.
So I just it makes you wonder what's real and what's not.
Yeah, well, that's been
the problem.
It's been going on for like a couple years now, and we're all look. President Trump, though he's done a lot of good things, he's a showman, and he's a smart man at what he knows and what he does. Even though he wasn't a politician, which is why I voted for him. Mm-hmm. So he's got good ideas, and that's the facts are facts. You can't deny facts. He's done some good things for this country, mm-hmm. But like I just said, he's a showman. He's had television shows. He's in the media all the time. So yeah, he sort of had more of a flamboyant characteristic in front of the camera than any of the other politicians did, because every other politician always has to play it down so that the people like you. Trump don't give a shit.
Right. Exactly.
Everybody else has got to play lawyer because that's how they're taught in law school and become politicians. It's all a freaking show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I voted for Trump, and the main reason was I saw how NAFTA destroyed Michigan manufacturing.
Oh, Lord.
And he was saying we wanted to bring back the manufacturing jobs in the United States, and so our country could be stronger and more self-reliant, and I'm all about that.
Sure.
Yes, sir. And of course, you mentioned the protesting earlier, and so did I. Michigan going out there, and of course, we did have Jacksonville opening their beaches, and I expect there to be many cases out there, Paul.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
Well, I mean, I'm getting some behind the scenes information that there are going to be a minimum of one other state on Monday to protest, like Michigan did.
Well, the thing is, I'm afraid to say this, but these protests that are going on, yeah, I have a real issue with it, because these aren't like this isn't at all like a grassroots movement at all. These are all conducted by think tanks, like government players. On the left and on the right.
For example, who do you think orchestrated the Lansing one? What do you mean by that?
Well, there's different people out there. There's that one woman, I'm forgetting her name at the moment. DeVos? Or DeVos? I'm forgetting that lady's name right now at the moment.
Well, where are they on let's say, the political spectrum?
I believe they are as right-wing as possible. And there's nothing wrong with being a right-winger or being on the left. None of that really matters to me.
Right.
Yeah, none of that really matters to me. But when there are,
so you think, so you think it's really orchestrated, and it's not really about. I've been looking for the Boston Tea Party moment in this whole crisis. Where is the Boston Tea Party moment that galvanizes the whole nation to say, you know what, you can't erode our civil liberties and go down this Biopatriot Act route? Well, I just haven't seen it yet. Where is the Boston Tea Party?
You're right, question. and it's interesting because I know Mark Levin, who is a talk show host on the radio. He has been a part of the Tea Party, and I've heard him say a few things in reference to how concerned he is about the government, and the fact that we are, the economy is just it's gonna sink with nobody working. Well, not nobody, just certain businesses. The independent businessman is unable to go to a shop, and yet, supermarkets are working, post offices, all the EMTs and the police and fire department. I don't know about government, but I'm sure somewhere in there, all what they consider to be the essential business, they're working. But mom and pop record shop, tattoo shop, antiques, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a professional photographer, and I have already lost 2 months worth of work as a result.
Yep. Yeah, I feel for you. I really do. I mean, I'll tell you, there's so many small businesses that make up Manhattan. A lot of people think that it's only big, it's only, big banks. No. Most of Manhattan is small businesses. It's, the beauty parlors and the barbershops and the restaurant owners and all that.
And there's clubs and theaters.
Yeah, exactly. And in good times, they may have maybe a month and a half of extra cash flow, to float the business. That's in good times. They can't take another hit. And this is where I'm kind of like worried on the second wave. What happens? It's so bad where we have to do shelter in place again.
Right. And by the way, the name of the woman is Betsy DeVos.
Betsy DeVos. She sounds familiar, but I'm not. I just don't know.
That's the lady that education.
She's kind of like what, like the right wing side, the right wing version of, let's say, George Soros.
No, I wouldn't go that. She's not. She doesn't have that much money.
Yeah.
But
at least trying to sway public opinion with such.
Well, I don't like it either. I mean, this is like what Antifa does as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right. These movements, these protests, they're not at all organic in nature.
It's an interesting theory. Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. You're probably right about it. But I've been looking for that moment where, even in the conspiracy world, they've been saying, oh, 5G is causing this. It's not a virus. It's 5G that's causing it. No, it's a virus. Crap. Yeah. But what is real is 5G will erode your civil liberties, because 4G, you can opt out off your phone. You could turn off your phone. You could throw it away because it's using the device. But 5G, when it's fully implemented, it doesn't need devices. It's ubiquitous. It's around everywhere. It is in the cloud. It's using cameras that are already in the in the society. You can't opt out.
That's effed
problem.
Up, man.
Yes,
I know. And that's why I would like to see.
It is.
I would like to see the burning or pulling down of the 5G towers.
I am with you on that.
That's the Boston Tea Party moment that I'm looking for.
By the way, she's the current United States Secretary of Education since 2017.
Really?
Right.
Wow.
So she was the one who funded the protest in Michigan.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's linked back to her.
That's interesting. Michael. See, I was actually feeling proud because I was born and raised in Michigan.
Well,
now
I mean,
there's kind of like,
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You have to. These things aren't like I said, they're not grassroots movements at all. And they always come from like a think tank, very much like in the radio industry. They have these things called focus groups, and I'm sure that works in television as well. That's why I don't like any of these things.
Yeah.
Michael,
go ahead.
Yesterday, when we interviewed Max made a comment in reference to the 5G towers that he said some of them are being pulled down.
Yes,
some of them
the
are
UK. Right.
Now, do you think that because he's in Australia. So you think that's happening in Australia? Because I haven't heard anything about it in America.
That's a good question. I don't think I've read anything about that, Mike, in Australia, but in the UK.
It started in Hong Kong.
Right.
And then I heard that it went to the UK. I didn't hear that it happened in Australia. But they're doing it for the wrong reasons, I thought. The Hong Kong individuals did it for the right reasons. They knew that it was a surveillance technology.
Oh.
And they were doing the facial recognition on the protesters, so they pulled down the tower. So they did it for the right reasons. Man. My understanding what the UK ones are doing is they think it's 5G's causing the virus.
Yeah,
for crying out loud. That's ridiculous. I
can't support that because there would be many cases of cancer amongst those who have died or infected. Well, yeah. So, I mean, it makes zero sense to me. You have to be rational. And lots of individuals out there, they sort of just echo what others tell them or what they read.
Well, what it is it's the David Ikes out there, and the Dr. Kaufmans that are promoting this idea that 5G or electromagnetic radiation causes exocytosis of the cell to create these infections. That's their theory. It's not a germ theory. It's more like electromagnetic radiation causal theory. But a lot of people, are believing this theory. It's not a true theory. Germ theory really is. I mean, this is a real virus, and it really does kill. And it's not. The genesis isn't because of 5G, but people should pull down 5G towers. The end result is the same. We should be pulling down the 5G towers, just the same reasons why they did it in Hong Kong, for the facial recognition and the never-ending tyranny of a surveillance state. Not because of a virus, but if we want to save our constitutional freedoms, we can't have ubiquitous 5G.
No.
I'm just afraid.
The thing is, Paul and Michael, is these goddamn cell phones. They update them like every 6 months to a year, and everybody, this whole new generation of people who are sucked into these electronic devices. Oh, I got to get the new iPhone. Oh, I got to get the new smartphone.
Right.
Screw that, man. If I could. Max said it perfect yesterday. These things, they take away our lives, so to speak. They are ruining our social abilities. They are just something that we feel that we can't live without. I try to use my cell phone as little as possible. I do things that I need to do on the computer, like email and or Facebook, whatever I have to promote or whatever. But I only use the cell phone for text messaging. I use the camera and a few other things, maybe the weather, but I really don't get that much into it. I don't want to. I just think they just continually, they suck you in, man. They suck you in, just like the internet. Right. They suck you in.
Well, I would say I completely agree with you, Mike, but we need to take it one step further. It's the first step of transhumanism. It's sucking the life out of you, literally. But as it becomes more and more ubiquitous, you become less and less human and more technological. You become more transhuman.
Agreed.
This is a transhuman move.
Oh,
it's a good time to get rid of your cell phone, though, with Google and Apple merging together a superpower to track you in real time.
Wow.
Oh, for the COVID-19 disease?
Right.
So does that mean China. That you have to have a new phone or a new app for that to work? Or like, for example, like my phone is what do I got? The 7? I've got the 7, and I got it about, I'm going to say 3 or 4 years ago, about 4 years ago. Will this whole surveillance thing, will that work on my phone, or would I have to get a new phone?
All you have to do is just download the app. Yeah. Your phone would run it. It's using GPS, and that's what it's doing is it's triangulating who's been sick in their database, and it knows your GPS location and their GPS location, and it'll tell you if you've been around someone that had COVID-19.
So I have I have to download the app for that to work?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I don't download it, I'm okay?
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think they're going to ask you once you fire up your phone. Eventually, you might receive a pop-up asking if you want to be a part of the program. If I read that correctly on one of these articles here.
Right. You have to opt in,
Right.
but you have to
gonna say
download
no.
the app first.
I'm gonna
My
say
understanding was that you had to download an app to do it.
I just wouldn't want to be a part of it, to be honest.
no. After
what it
hearing
does-
all this,
yeah.
Why would you?
want to
Yeah.
be?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that it just tells you, and that GPS technology that's on the phone can be used for so many different things to track you.
Sure.
And and Edward Snowden was saying this a long time ago,
That's right.
but people weren't listening. Well, here we go. Here we are. We're almost to the point where we're going to see ubiquitous 5G, and you're not going to be able to get out of it unless you have a revolt, a Boston Tea Party moment, where you actually literally tear down the tower. Just like we said no to to a tea tax and to a stamp tax and to any other tax. I mean, this is the 5G tax on our lives, and we need to stand together as citizens and say no.
I'm with you on that.
I'm for tearing down those towers. Some people say, "Oh, Paul, you're too revolutionary and you're going to get yourself in trouble." And I'm just like,
Fight
what?
the power.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm with you on everything you've stated, but a lot of people are jumping on the virus is fake and it's the 5G. I can't ride that bandwagon, to be honest.
Right. No,
It's a little out there. It's a little too much.
because there's no scientific basis for it.
Absolutely, it's kind of a baseless claim.
And I'm wondering if it's just put in there by the powers that be to divide us.
It's possible. I mean, this whole thing, I feel like it's a civil war or another war with maybe another country is going to go down after all this is said and done. I don't know. It feels that way.
Well, I if you really pay attention to what the mainstream media is saying now, the last 5-6 days, I said this on your show.
That's right.
On the first time I was on your channel.
Yeah.
That we had to worry about a 2025 conflict with the CCP in the Pacific Ocean. And you can kind of see the drumbeat of war starting to happen here. And they're going to try to blame the virus on the CCP. And they're at fault. But let's be really honest. So was the United States and the genesis of the research coming out of Fort Detrick before it was transferred over to the P4 lab and funded by Fauci. We need to bring Fauci and the gang to justice and to show that he had his hands in this viral engineering program, just like how Summers was involved in the financial engineering that was going on during the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act and the eventual collapse of Lehman.
And by the way, Paul, are you interested in taking any calls in case anyone does want to call in?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, well, if anybody wants to call in, here's your chance. That number is 760-332-8944. You see it up on your screen there. Don't be afraid, call in. We'd like to talk to you about all of these things. And of course, there have been articles recently stating the U.S. government gave $3.7 million grant to Wuhan lab. That's one of the latest you see.
That's what I'm talking about. They were helping the funding of this research that ended up leaking out of their lab and hurting a lot of people. And I invite all those lawyers out there, that are constitutional lawyers and tort lawyers, and they need to start sharpening their pencil and saying, all right, who are the players and who are we going to sue? And bring them to justice, because an awful lot of people are being hurt financially and physically, and that's just not right. They need to be brought to justice.
I agree with you on that one, and I think we might have lost Mike yet again.
Hopefully he didn't kill himself.
Right. I know, right? Hopefully he did not kill himself. Yeah, I'm not hearing him. We lost Mike.
I don't hear. Okay, he dropped out,
He's
so he'll probably
gone.
call right back. Normally when he drops out, then he'll call. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely Fauci is a major player. Hi, Mike.
What's up, Mike?
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, don't
We
worry.
were worried that you killed yourself because I was being so.
Paul,
so
every
negative.
time you come around, I just want to put a bullet like right there. I'm so depressed. All I wanted to say was.
But you keep on coming for more.
All I wanted to say in reference to your comment about justice is that, don't hold your breath, because there have been so many things that have gone on in politics that we never find justice because they just seem to get away with every little thing.
Well, that's the strange thing is if you really pay attention to what Fauci talks about, he wants to push away the distributed bios technology. That's an antibody technology. And Fauci's pushing Moderna, which is this messenger RNA platform. And I told you guys a while back why I'm scared of this. They could put a Trojan horse in that messenger RNA and start fiddling around with your genome. You can't do that with antibodies. So if I was to take a vaccine, if I was forced to take one, I would much rather have an antibody one versus a messenger RNA platform.
And by the way, I did want to chime in here really quickly and say, for that individual who was calling in, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong number. Call in this number, 760-332-8724. That is the number to call in. Well, it's because the other number is not ready to be used yet for some odd reason.
Oh, well, that's your problem.
I just looked
probably.
up. Mm-hmm.
I gave out the new number today on my Facebook page. Maybe that was why.
Oh yes, it's not ready yet. I had to make sure this thing was even activated yet. But no, that number is 760-332-8724. That is the right number. Call in if you want to talk to Paul and all of us. Really, go ahead.
So I have a question for Mike. So yes. In terms of trying to have that Boston Tea Party moment. What a person like myself, what do I do to try to galvanize people to stand up for their constitutional rights and say hell no? What do I do, or people like me do?
Right. I think the only way I can answer that, in my personal opinion, is obviously being a part of the Tea Party, where you would connect with other people. And say, hey, let's do this. Let's go tear down this tower. I mean, that's my only logical answer. I really wouldn't know otherwise, Paul. I really wouldn't. That's my best guess answer.
And you've been trying.
I'm noticing on my channel, it's very hard to get individuals engaged. And I've been trying to, promote the idea, reach your representative, contact them, bug them. But, anecdotally, I'll tell you, a few days ago, drones were flying up and down the East River by the NYPD at 10 o'clock in the morning, telling people to go back inside and not to congregate.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I called Governor Cuomo's office. I called de Blasio's, and I called Schumer's. Schumer had on his website a COVID-19 emergency, line. So I called that. And I eventually ended up, getting someone from the health department for the state of New York. And I said, hey,
that was a fun call, by the way.
Why do you have drones telling us to go inside? Why do the police need drones? I mean, that's not compassionate. That's like RoboCop. I mean, what do you need that for? And she said, I understand, sir. I understand, but it's out of our jurisdiction, but you could contact the Attorney General. She gave me the Attorney General's number. I haven't contacted him yet, but
hold on, Paul.
People. Yeah, go ahead.
1 second. Caller, you are live on the air. What's going on?
Yeah, good conversation, guys. I really enjoying the show.
Very nice. What's on your mind?
Well, it has to do with the 5G and the coronavirus. In England, for number one, they're not burning down the towers because they think that coronavirus is being caused by the 5G. There's been protesting going on for 5 or 6 years, and there's a couple of big activists that had some really very influential YouTube videos on it where they would like show the 5G tower right like 20 feet on one side of a tree, and that whole side of the tree is like burned. There's no leaves. The other side of the tree is perfectly normal. And people are in the school where that thing is at, and they're getting cancer and all kinds of stuff. So this has been boiling over in the UK for a long time.
Well, I do subscribe to the idea that electromagnetic radiation does cause an increase in ROS. ROS is reactive oxygen species. So you have these oxygen charged molecules, and it starts to destroy cells. So this is why people take antioxidants to neutralize those ROSs.
Yeah,
if you
Doctor,
go down
I don't know
ROS
if you saw
pathway,
some of the comparisons. There were several. I'm sorry, am I talking over somebody?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
There were X-rays done of people that were hit with this 5G, and the lung tissue damage was identical to coronavirus. You could not tell the difference. They had microscopic slices done under electron microscope, and
let me explain what you're describing. Let me explain what you're describing. What has been found is that electromagnetic radiation, such as 5G, can create ROS, and an increased ROS will lead to an upregulation of NF-kappa, which is an inflammatory cytokine, which will lead to a pathological disease. Now, when you start to stress tissue, you will release more cytokines into that area and create more inflammation. So yes, does EMF cause a lower immune system? Absolutely, no doubt about it. And when you have a lower immune system, you may get strange diseases or not be able to fight common diseases that normally would go away after a few days or a couple weeks. They become chronic. So, and there is evidence that children have been affected, especially like leukemias or brain cancers, with EMF. Well, but this is where the data is. There's no doubt about it. The virus is not caused by EMF. You may get more viral load because your immune system is down, and the virus is able to replicate and take advantage of that lower immune system. And this is where people are missing what is causal. What is the point?
Were in areas where the 5G was just implemented. It was the Chinese version.
Yeah, I believe me. I understand what you're saying. But the thing is that the hotspots are primarily in areas that have high density populations. Well, wouldn't the high density populations also have a 5G tower? Because that's just economically a viable area to put the 5G in. So it's correlation without causation. People are looking that it's correlated, but there is no causation. That's the point. Everyone's saying, oh, you look at a 5G map and it's the same as the hot zones that were started in the United States. So that doesn't mean anything. The populations where those hot zones are larger populations. It'd be different if the hot zone was in the middle of a cow field in Montana. But that's not what you have.
But then wouldn't it affect the cows or any livestock, in which case it would affect us?
Yeah, well, that's true. We don't see cows dropping dead in Montana because of 5G. But the point is they don't have a 5G tower. But they don't have a 5G tower in the grasslands of Montana. They only put 5G towers where there's a high density people. It's just cost effective to do that.
I
So
understand
there's
that.
this correlation. So there's just this correlation, but it's not causal. And this is the problem that people that you know that are looking at the data that you know aren't critically looking at it. You know, they'll say, "Oh, well, that's a 1-to-1 match. There's a correlation, so it must be causal." No, I can prove, I can show that there's a correlation between a bee flying around in a room and how the stock market trades in one day. That doesn't mean that the bee caused the stock market to go up and down that day. It's
I'm
a
not saying
random
it's
thing. The
caused-
point is
that's
it's a
my
it's a correlation that has a randomness to it.
It
And
exacerbates
Dr.
the
Tella
situation that already
wrote very well on the idea that we're fooled by randomness.
Did you get my last comment?
No.
Go ahead.
I said I never implied that it was causal. I said it exasperates a condition that is already present. So if you got a bunch of people, you hit them with the 5G and they already have the coronavirus there, it's going to make it worse. That's my only point.
I agree with that. I agree with that. If it is increasing something like NF kappa, some people it's not going to do, but other people it may, increase, inflammatory cytokines and create these, cytokine storms. So, but the thing is that the far majority of the people that are linking 5G to this virus is saying that it's the 5G that's making the virus. The David Ikes are saying that the 5G is the disease. That is totally not true. And
Yeah,
that's
no, I
why he
agree
was
with you there.
banned. That's why that show from London Real was banned. See, what's happening is that these big channels that are in the truther community are making such statements that are so false that it's confusing the public because the public, unfortunately, doesn't have a scientific background. Let's just face it. America's great. It is great. I truly believe it, and it's worth fighting for and protecting our civil liberties. This is a great country, but unfortunately, many of the citizens are stupid. And they need to wake up, look in the mirror, and realize that, you know what? All that liberal arts bullshit, that we need more kids going into engineering, going into science, going into medicine, because that's what made this country great. It was the ability to design and make things instead of going into law and suing everybody.
Well put.
So what we have is a bunch of lawyers that are telling us that or a bunch of liberal arts majors, and there's nothing wrong with liberal arts. I'm just saying there, but we have a bunch of liberal arts majors telling people that 5G is causing this virus. Now I understand the caller is not saying that specifically, but many people are, and it's causing a division within the truther community. And we're all on the same side. We don't want the new world order. But the problem is we're fighting each other because of this stupid concept that 5G is causing the virus. No, it's not causing the virus. The same thing. When I make the statement that there's going to be 6.5 million people that die from COVID-19, people go, "Oh, how could that be?" Because more than half of the country is sick normally with diabetes, obesity, or some other disease. And if you have a comorbidity, you're probably going to die from it, from COVID-19. So that's why the death rate is so high. It's because of the underlying diseases that happen. Or, just being, let's say that you're healthy, but you're just older. I mean, that's going to be a problem.
Yes, yesterday's guest was making a comment that now that we've got the Chinese virus attacking everybody, we don't hear about heart attacks or accidents or anything like that. Everybody's dying from the virus, which I found completely ridiculous because that's just not true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. Actually, there was a paper that I think it was New York Times. I wasn't sure if New York Times was citing a Japanese paper or the Japanese paper was citing the New York Times. I don't know who started it, but they were saying it in New York. Heart attacks are actually increased, not decreased, because people aren't moving around. Yeah. They're staying at home, and what it does is the blood starts to accumulate in the lung or in the legs. They're getting poor circulation, and they start having a heart attack.
One more point, if I may. What does the
Yeah.
60 hertz frequency have to do with this? I heard that that is something that is especially damaging to human DNA, especially at the levels of the RF signal that is being projected by the 5G system.
Yeah, but now we're talking about targeting. I mean, here's the problem: is that you have research out there that says that if you focus electromagnetic wave in a dish with a bunch of cells in it, that many of the cells, let's say more than 50% of them, have mutations. Okay, there's research like that out there, but you don't have very strong that's called in vitro studies. You don't have strong studies dealing with in vivo, where you're actually having that target on on a living human and knowing what it does. So this is targeted magnetic radiation. The military is research this and stuff, but I would think that as it's going through your different tissues on your body, that it's going to dissipate and it's not going to have as much of an effect as you would have in vitro in a petri dish. So I would agree with you in a petri dish, but we're not a petri dish.
Amazing. Anything else, caller?
No, I disagree with that. I think that these studies have been done on humans, and I think any level of EMF that is used, ramped up to that point, and I'm a software engineer that's been working on artificial intelligence for 30 years. I'm not a dumbass. So
I'm not saying that you're a dumbass, but I did a postdoc in artificial intelligence too. So I mean, so I can talk too. I mean, I did cortical and subcortical computing with unassisted, learning. So I mean, but that doesn't mean a hill of fucking beans right now, because I'm trying to protect our civil liberties.
Great point.
Well, I agree with that, boy. That's for sure.
Amazing.
Thank you, caller.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
All right. Great, thanks.
Take it easy, buddy.
You too.
Thanks for calling.
And there he goes. Great call there. I appreciated that. I like that he was fired up and very passionate about what he spoke about. He feels,
Absolutely.
yeah, I appreciate that, even though I may not agree with everything, but appreciate
Here's
the
the
call.
problem is that a lot of people are zeroing on what they can do on one cell, but the human body is so complicated, it dissipates the effects. So I mean, it's but can there be a target radiation? This is the same thing as that people are saying you can use some sort of electromagnetic wave to kill the virus. Well, if it's all over your body, how are you going to target it?
That's true.
I mean, if you're targeting it with such focus, you only get just a few cells. How are you going to, if this thing is billions and billions of viral particles in your body, maybe trillions, how are you going to get it?
And if anybody
And what
wants
happens
to,
if it's dormant within a cell?
Absolutely. And if anybody wants to call in, that number is on the screen, 760-332-8724. Don't be afraid. It's just me, Paul, and my kitties here.
Call in, guys.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, boys. I've never felt more. I've never had a feeling more of wanting to have lived further in the past, in a more simpler time. No friggin' computers, no biological weaponry or chemical warfare. Just oh my God, I just can't believe I'm living through this. I really can't.
Mike, have you ever had the chance to go to Greenfield Village in Michigan? At the Greenfield Museum? I
have not. I've only been to Michigan once, and I did not go there.
So what it basically is Ford set aside a bunch of land, and he started buying homes across the United States of famous people, the Websters, Edison, all these people, the Wright brothers, and created a little village called Greenfield Village. And what it is it's to capture the time in the United States before the paving of highways, the paving of roads for the car. So it's like just before the car became this new phenomena that really changed the landscape of Americana, and created these suburbs, and it just totally changed on how the United States is configured.
Okay.
But what it is that when you're in the village, you're going back to late 1800s, early 1900s.
No kidding.
Yeah. It's actually very peaceful. And I agree with you.
Listen,
go ahead.
I live in a very rural area of Pennsylvania, in a gated community. We don't get mail delivered. I'm lucky if I see 20 cars on my street every day.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very, very quiet. In fact, most of I don't know how many acres it is, but I know it's about 5 to 6 miles around circumference. And there's all trees and plenty of wildlife, and that's how they want to keep it, and that's why I love it here. There's no crime. There's no. I can only just tell you, it's not like where I used to live in New Jersey, which was in a main city called Kearney, New Jersey, about 10 minutes in the Holland Tunnel. But my point is, here, I feel safe. I got to be honest with you. I do not fear the virus, because my closest neighbor is about maybe 50 yards away. My next door neighbor on all 3 sides of me, across the street, to my left and to my right, they're not even here. They only come around like once in a while in the summertime. That's primarily how this community works. So my whole point is, I don't even fear this virus, because I could walk outside and I just feel like I'm safe.
But the bigger question, Mike, have you seen Bigfoot in the winter?
That's a legit
No,
question.
I've seen the Loch Ness Monster.
That's a really good question, actually.
No, but this is what I was getting to. So having said all that, my next question to you was this. I own a gas mask. Do you think I would be safe wearing that as opposed to just a facial hospital mask?
It's actually better, as long as you seal it right. Yeah.
Right, I would assume it would be, because
a lot of people don't know how to seal it. A lot of people don't know how to seal a gas mask. There's a special way to seal it around your face, but if you do it right, yeah, it's actually better. But I mean, think about it. Just imagine myself. I got a gas mask and I'm going to Whole Foods to buy some groceries. I kind of look a little ridiculous.
See, that's the point. That's what I was getting at, because I have 2 gas masks.
I'd still do it, Mike, if I were you.
Say again?
I would still wear it if I were you.
Well, here's what I'm getting to. Now, I've had these two gas masks for years, and they're in perfect condition. One of them is an Israeli gas mask. The other one is a Russian gas mask. I'm sorry, Czechoslovakian, or something like that. So I know they're big, they're scary looking, and I'd probably make a lot of children cry, which is okay with me. So, do you ever see the respirators that a lot of outside gardeners use? It goes over the nose, the mouth, and it's got the 2 or 1 filter that goes. There's no face mask on it, just the filter for breathing. It's a breathing apparatus. Do you think that would work as well?
Mm-hmm. But so would a spacesuit.
Okay.
The more the more you enclose your whole body, the less chance of getting the virus.
Okay, let me be a little more specific. As in comparison between a respirator and a gas mask, would the respirator work as good as the gas mask? Because
the gas mask would be definitely better. But the thing is yeah, right, exactly. But the thing is cost. And maintenance versus the lower grade one, but yeah, gas masks would be much better.
And hold that thought.
But the question is, will it be better? Yes. Now the question is the marginal change. How much of a change? You may be with a gas mask. It would be better, but you may only be 20% better.
And
is it worth that extra 20%?
Hold that thought really quickly, Paul. Caller, what's going on?
Hey, gentlemen, it's Frank. How is everyone tonight?
Everyone's fine, I think.
Hi.
Frank, what's up? What do you have for us tonight?
I just wanted to thank you for the time and the opportunity to talk with Dr. Cottrell. Thank you, Doctor. I wanted to introduce myself as one of the main, I guess you'd consider me like a what's the antithesis to the I'm a villain for Jason Goodman, And you had a recent interaction with that gentleman recently.
Arch
And I was
nemesis.
wondering if you could expound upon that for both Mike and Michael here tonight.
Well, yeah. I've been trying to not say bad things about someone on the air, but hell with it. So,
Yeah, don't hold back.
Let's bury that hatchet right here, because I'm on the record of calling him a fat cunt to his face. So
Amazing.
right.
Like
Well,
big way. That guy's a dirty
people,
rat from my point of view. So good job in trying to handle him.
Well, here's the problem with Jason. He lives in New York. All right. I don't know if he was born in New York or not. Yeah, but he lives in New York. He's been in New York for a while, and he has a show called
we know the show. You don't have to give it any
Crowding Truth or something like that. I forgot what it's called.
Yeah.
So he was walking around with Charles, his friend, in front of Cooper Union, and he was stating that he was trying to get a hold of me, and that I was dodging him for some reason.
He was baiting you. He was baiting.
Yeah, well, yeah, but and he challenged me. Well, I'm not asking him to be on my show. I'm daring him. I'm challenging him now to be on my show because he's not a medical professional. He's not an MD, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. But the bottom line is I do know what I'm talking about, and so I called him and left a voicemail stating that I wanted to be on a show to debate him. I also sent him an email stating that I wanted to debate him live, not recorded, live. And then he calls back, but before he calls back, I did a rant video playing his video where he's walking around New York in front of Cooper Union with Charles, making statements that were totally false. And it's about context. He was talking about Tedros from the WHO saying how evil he was, and then all of a sudden he segues to me and makes it sound like I'm some sort of social engineer that's trying to orchestrate panic. And I think I've been very clear from day one that I'm trying to save our Constitution and our civil liberties. It's not like I'm trying to, promote fear. I mean, I'm worried about people's health. I'm worried about, my mother. I'm worried about. I mean, if anyone understands my history, my family history, they can understand why I am the way I am. So I made this video, and at times as I'm recording, I'm, throwing F-bombs and C-bombs and, and a bunch of other bombs.
Right.
And, I think he is a penis. I think he's a penis succular, and, that's just, so, but
Sorry, boy, you can't say that on the air.
So I told, I said, hey, he acts like this. He's this tough guy, walking around New York with a selfie stick instead of calling his representatives and saying, hey, what about the Biopatriot Act and eroding our civil liberties and the decashing and, the forced vaccinations. Instead, he wants to, pick little fights with me. So I said, okay, you want a challenge? I was born and raised in Detroit. So I stated in the video, Detroiters, you hit us, we'll hit back, but harder, But that was metaphoric. But but the thing is that he was. The bottom line is that I created that video to basically stand up for my own character, and say, hey, who are you, Jason, to talk negative about someone that's trying to help the nation? And it's very clear. I mean, I have, I don't know, a couple hundred videos now on COVID-19 related content. I mean, and I started it on January 25th. I mean, this guy has about 100,000 subscribers on one channel. He has a backup channel. I don't know how many is on his backup channel. I started with 700 subscribers, and it was like a video log of my about my educational pursuits. in economics, finance, and in biology and medicine. And as I told Michael on the very first show that we did together, that I went into this looking at the genome as just an intellectual pursuit, but in 5 minutes, because of my background in biology at Harvard, I realized right away we were looking at something that was not zoonotic, that it was man-made. I could see it right away within 5 minutes.
And by the way,
and
Paul,
then it led me down a road that proved all of my hypotheses.
And by the way, Paul, you can call him a cocksucker here. It's okay.
Well, he is a cocksucker, but you know.
Go ahead, Frank. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Frank.
For the benefit of Mike, the Empire Hideous, and why this is so interesting is that this character that Paul is talking about famously got himself involved in the Seth Rich case, which is that case that I keep bringing up on the show kind of as a story arc now, because I told you way back in the day this started with some kid that died at the DNC, remember?
Right.
And his rise to fame, his meteoric rise to fame, this cocksucker that we're talking about, he's just playing these YouTube games of what he was doing was baiting Paul, and really, Paul's a reasonably good researcher, great content on LinkedIn. That's where I know him professionally. And what ends up happening is this guy gets him to, draws him out to try and create this attention game that he does. And he gets this crap all over you, and he gets people involved in lawsuits. He's just a flaming pile of poo. From Hollywood, by the way. And yeah, he came from New York, but he's also from Hollywood. So dirty rat, stay the hell away from him, and don't give him any oxygen. He burns himself out. But,
here's the backstory. So after I did that video calling him a cocksucker, about 15 times, and saying that, hey, I'm ready for a live debate anytime, anywhere. He calls me and he goes, you're saying that you're going to hit me and all this, and supposedly I was told that he recorded it. All right. Our conversation. I don't know if he did or not.
In a good pain. I really didn't. It didn't do him any favors, because the kind of stuff he's saying, I mean, it's the same stuff that he levels at everybody else. And he acts like such a whining little victim when people are playing hardball with him. But then he does that and worse, and he's bad for doxing people. He's gotten himself into defamatory litigation, which will probably cost him his house if they ever open up the courts again. I hope it does. He's a salacious piece of shit. But
not only that, he's been harassing the nurses and doctors at Elmhurst. In Queens.
He's a freak. I love it.
Yeah, and then and so he calls me. After he saw the video of me calling him, a penis, succulus. Yeah. I supposedly he's recording, but I'm yelling at him on the phone saying, when am I going to be on your show? And I kept on, just repeating that. When am I going to be on your show? When am I going to be on your show? And he goes, you're such an asshole, Paul, or something like that. You're never going to be on my show. I go, fine, you're going to be on my show then. I'm going to debate you then. And then near the end of the conversation, he was like saying, did you know Lieber? And I said, or he said something like, do you know Lieber? And I said, I know of him because he was the professor at Harvard that was, charged for espionage from the nanotechnology department. And he goes, well, he was a chair for chemistry and biology, and you're getting your master's at Harvard from biology, so you must have worked in his lab. And I go, no, I didn't work in his lab. It was totally two different departments. And, so he was trying to pin this idea that since I know so much about what's going on, that I must have worked under Lieber. And that starts to get dangerous, where he's calling me a traitor.
It's totally that's his total MO. He just makes these specious connections between things.
Yeah. Yeah, so I had to stand up for my character.
Dials up the woo music, and his show is a big conspiracy theory too. It's like I see giving updates on LinkedIn and getting a lot of engagement and being, active and things like that, and being able to show off to people where your research is coming from. And I have to commend you, because I think, you've spotted a man-made virus. The only way I don't agree with you on is that you think it's an accident. I know it's pretty obvious that it was released on purpose, and it's a doomsday device. So it doesn't make much sense that the people that did it would release it but they're banking on a whole lot of other protections that they think that they've got, or that it's really off the shelf now, or off the hook now, that these two warring factions have been fighting for a while for this planet. Because I just want to ask you guys, what do you think would be like the alternative if we were on a different timeline and this was Hillary's weapon?
Oh my God.
Off and running. Yeah, like let's throw that in the mix.
I don't even want to know. I can't even think about that right now. To be honest with you. Thank God we don't have Hillary in the White House.
Thank goodness.
Right, exactly.
I do not think that would be a great idea right now.
I mean, just by the way she handled her loss, I mean, blaming everybody for every little thing, racism, sexism, homophobism, everything. Just, you know what? It was your fault, lady. You lost the election because you suck.
Well, I can't
Well,
disagree.
not just that. Look at what happened to Benghazi.
Oh, look at the body count that they have. Look at the body count.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And you know what, Paul? I was talking to you before about justice. That's my point right there. This is a person who Benghazi, or the smuggling of drugs into Arkansas. Was it Arkansas or Alabama?
Mm-hmm.
Mina, Arkansas.
No, it was Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah.
Right.
All the people that are dead because of them. And where's the justice? None.
Exactly.
They're protected.
And here, and to segue it to Jason Goodman here. Now he has Dr. Corsi on his show regularly talking about the virus. And Dr. Corsi has a PhD, I think it's in economics, but from Harvard. So, he's a fellow Harvard man. I have to respect that. You don't want to throw bombs at a fellow Harvard person.
Right.
But the thing is that he's saying that Dr. Corsi has more to say about the virus, yet I'm getting a master's degree at Harvard in biology, and I've already been accepted to medical school. That's a big difference than Dr. Corsi, who follows Q as if it's Nostradamus.
Oh my.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's just like, so I mean, Jason is like, he's like, I don't know where he's coming from. It's as if he needs attention or recognition for some reason.
There's a lot of people like that in this sort of truther community that are attention whores, in my opinion.
Yeah. But I mean, if you have 100,000 subscribers on a YouTube channel, which is a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not use that as a platform to say, hey, let's not lose our civil liberties. Let's, engage and make sure we don't have forced vaccinations. Instead, he's like trying to get people mad on the internet and call them names.
That's what happens, Paul, when you got a guy that has a selfie stick.
Good point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know what he does with it in the, late at night. I don't know.
Oh
my God.
We could only speculate, indeed.
Right, exactly.
Only
maybe
speculate.
That's why, he acts the way he does in the morning. I don't know. Strange.
We never know. But by the way, Paul, we are headed towards a break right now. I thought we could use a little break, go to the restroom, go to the fridge, whatever we have to do. And we could come right back here in a few minutes and we will conclude with round 2.
Okay, great.
All right. Mike, are you ready for that?
I'm ready, buddy.
All right. We will go on a break, and gentlemen, you will hear me in a few minutes here. Go ahead and do your thing. I'm going to mute all of you. And we'll be right back, boys and girls. Stay tuned. Round 2 is coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. And welcome back to part 2 of the program. And I believe Mike and Paul are ready now. What's going on, guys?
Hi.
Hey, buddy.
Did you enjoy your break?
Yes.
I could say yes too.
Did the parrot talk to you, Mike?
Not so much. They were just getting a little antsy downstairs, so I brought them up and I put each one of them on their perch next to my my desk up here in the loft, and they're much happier now.
Very good, very good. And you know, during the break, the weird thought just occurred to me. And of course, I wasn't around when this happened, but I was just wondering, has America always been this soft? The whole shelter in place. I mean, lots of us are nagging that we have to stay indoors, but I'm thinking back like 1941 after the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. Do you think those people were complaining after having to ration their food and basically help out for the war? I wonder, were they complaining as much as we were?
Can I reply to that?
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry, Paul. Just real quick, because before I forget, it's on my mind. The big difference, and I'm sure both of you would agree with me as well as the audience, is that back then we didn't have
anything.
Cell phones, computers, social media. We didn't have a lot of people didn't have televisions. Well, maybe that's not true, because that was, what are you saying, in the 40s? Or is that what you're referring to, Michael?
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is, have we become so
Soft.
goddamn spoiled,
right,
in our ways? Have we got that sort of greedy in our own ways? Paul, go ahead, or Mike, finish your thought. I'm sorry.
No. That's I agree. I think we've become a little selfish, snot-nosed brat kid that, open the beaches. Come on, we're not thinking rationally here. Of the seriousness of this disease, this virus. So yes, I think very much that people are being selfish and thinking that they need to get out there and I don't know, play ball or whatever. But use your head.
I would analyze it a little bit more philosophical.
Go ahead, brother.
I think in the greatest generation and even previous generations before them, they would look at problems and look at it from a utilitarian perspective. What is the best for the for the group? What sort of self-sacrifice do they have to do for the group? Today, it's egoism. They're totally two different philosophical frameworks. And that egoism is perpetuated and magnified, like what Mike said. It's the technology, it's the immediacy, it's that push the button and you get an answer right away. There's not a lot of thought. We're disconnected with nature. It's the McDonald's syndrome.
We're just so damn spoiled.
Your way, right away, kind of thing. And it's a problem. We have too much egoism in our society, and not enough self-sacrifice.
Right.
Well put.
Yeah.
Better than my answer.
Well,
your answer was good.
Yeah, I agree with both of you, though. I definitely agree with both of you. It's a bit of all these things. And it really should just those out there who are experiencing this, all of us out there, I don't think they have even contemplated that at all about the past.
Well, why would they? They're egoists.
Most of them are.
Yeah, I mean, whatever they do is right because it's what they want at that time. They don't need to do sacrifice. What's interesting is something probably really did happen during the Vietnam era because of the draft into the war. There was some sort of inflection point in the United States where
it was called the 60s.
Yeah, exactly. But during these 60s, you went away from that utilitarianism of the greatest generation and you went right into that egoism. So that's why we're starting to hear these phrases like "okay, boomer," and all this kind of thing. But
it's definitely what you just said, that the whole 60s hippie generation, tune in, turn on, drop out.
I say that on the show in the intro.
Right. Yeah. That's Leary who
Timothy
said that,
Leary,
right?
Correct.
Yeah. And the whole drug culture that came out, the hippies dropping acid, peace man, make love not war, and don't get me wrong, that's not a bad thing. Make love not war. I agree with that, but the hippies brought it to a new level because as Paul just said, we went from that greatest generation, a generation of men who sacrificed their lives for this country and the world. And then we have, then we get into another war, the Vietnam War, and they got the 60s going on. And as these soldiers are coming back, they're being called baby killers. And, you got hippies burning the flag. So where did the patriotism go?
Exactly. When my father got out of the service in, I think it was 64, when he got back into Detroit, he was spit on.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I mean it's ridiculous. And he was doing his duty, serving his country. No soldier should be treated like that.
No. And to this day, for the last 10 years, I started doing this more often. Every time I see a veteran, I always walk up to them. I say, thank you very much. If they let me shake their hand, I do. But I always say thank you. Always.
You can't shake their hand anymore, Mike.
No, not anymore. From a distance, about 6 feet.
There you go. Well, I'm sure this quarantine has seen a number of domestic violence cases, and I've looked at the articles, and there's been a shitload, to be honest. And of course, we know that porn, video games, and pot are still quite popular. We didn't need an article by Forbes to tell us that much. We already know.
But did it get more popular?
I'm sure
after COVID-19.
Oh, I'm sure it did. I would have to hope so. And Mike, I mean, can you believe it, Mike? You had a crazy ex-girlfriend, if I recall, and myself included. We all have had crazy ex-girlfriends in our past, but can you imagine just being quarantined with the last one, Mike? You dodged the bullet.
No.
Can you imagine
because
that?
After just one day, about 5 hours, I wanted to hang myself. No. Now, there's crazy and there's absolute lunatic. That was my ex-girl.
Oh, my.
No comparison, my friend. I've gone out with plenty of crazy girls.
It's not just crazy; it's the crazy needy ones that
Oh,
are really
and that was
dangerous.
her.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
just crying about everything. You're not paying attention to me.
Oh, no.
Shut up.
It's the crazy needy ones that are
What's going on?
dangerous.
You know, that reminds me. What's going on with you, Paul, and that woman from, what was she from, Arizona? It seemed like you two were hitting it off. A little love connection there, Paul?
No, there
going
was
on?
nothing there. There was nothing there.
Come on.
I mean, basically, she, she's been a watcher of the channel for a while. She's a Patreon subscriber.
Oh, shit.
And
Here we go.
And I was trying to help her promote a book. She has a health book that is more tied to individuals that have like a pro-inflammatory response due to vaccinations. They may be somewhat vax injured. Her kids were vax injured.
Oh, okay.
And what she was just explaining on the show, what she did, try to reduce their symptoms.
Which is admirable.
Yeah. And the reason why I brought her on the show was because forced vaccinations is one of the elements in the BioPatriot Act that I've been saying. And I want to inform the public. It's like, you got to be careful that if you're forced vaccinated, you don't know if it's going to affect your children or not. Or even adults get, vax harmed too. So we have to ask questions like, what kind of testing did you guys do? How long did the testing go for? How do you know for sure that this new messenger RNA platform is safe? These are legitimate questions, especially if they want to force it on us. So it was a 2-part series. So I interviewed her and how she tried to get around the hardships of what happened to her kids. Then I interviewed Joshua Coleman. He was the I guess the film director for Vax 2. So there was a movie called Vax. And then there was another movie that came out, documentary that came out called Vax 2. Right. They went around the country interviewing about 800 families. And they told their story, what happened to their kids, and how they went down this hellish road of autism and, other ailments, other, peripheral nervous system ailments. But the majority were, somewhere on the spectrum of autism. So that was the reason why I had Gail on and Joshua on. So no, there's nothing there.
I know. I'm just teasing with you.
I had a lot of comments. A lot of people have sent comments talking about it.
I know. It's because they see you doing these videos and they think, oh, maybe Paul needs a girlfriend. You know
what I should do for the next 3 weeks? I should just interview girls.
You should. You would
and
really
it's like
screw
really
people.
Hot chicks.
Go ahead.
Hot chicks.
You should do
2 weeks.
Paul.
2 south. Yeah.
Gotta love Paul. And by the way, in the chat room here, Mike, you're going to appreciate this one. So will you, Paul. She blinded me with science says, can you imagine being stuck with a crazy cat lady? Oh my.
Well, I'm kind of like a crazy cat guy, so.
Well, I mean,
I'm a crazy bird guy, so I don't know.
I don't think I would consider you to be a cat lady guy, or a cat lady man is what we call them.
See, I'm allergic to cats. I'm just like, I can't stand. I mean, I get watery eyes and I start, sneezing nonstop. I'm allergic to cats.
You want to hear something, Paul? I used to be allergic to them too. I actually. When I got my first cat, which I adopted from a shelter, I was highly allergic to it. And after several years, it just went away.
That's interesting.
But, it's not for everybody. I was willing to do that. I was allergic to pretty much almost anything with fur, except dogs for some reason. But like rabbits, cats, anything with fur.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard that, if you're around it long enough, you could build up a tolerance, which is exactly what I did. I got 1 cat, I got 2 cats, I got 3 cats, and I was like, okay. And after about, I don't know, maybe 7 years, 5 years, it just started to dissipate.
But what's the official number for a crazy cat lady? How many cats does she really need?
I think more
10.
than
10?
If she has more than 3 cats, then that's probably a red flag. Might be a red flag. Might want to turn back. Hard left right there, Paul. Turn around. Paul's going to be going 80 north on the next time he sees a cat around. But Paul, going back to getting back to...
Hey, real quick. Hold on, stop. I got to tell you. Michael,
in there.
1 second. Did you know that there's a new series of episodes of the Tiger King?
Oh, don't tell me that.
I had, so you brought up cats, so I had to tell you that.
Oh no. Was this like an actual episode or one of those sort of talking episodes?
No, it's a continuation. Well, I got to be perfectly honest. I haven't watched it. I don't even want to get involved. But I know I saw it on Netflix the other day when I was watching MST3K. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that's Mystery Science Theater 3000. And they had a little ad for it, new episodes of Tiger King. And I was like, oh, okay, I got to tell Michael.
Now I'm gonna have to watch that because the last movie I watched was Outbreak. Paul, you've seen the movie Outbreak, right?
Yes, I've seen it.
Did
This is the one with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah.
With Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah.
Wait, no, it's not with Gwyneth Paltrow.
No, it's Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, Dustin
I forget
Hoffman.
the girl who played the woman who plays his ex-wife, but Dustin Hoffman plays a military medical whatever you would call it.
Renee.
And
then I must have saw something else.
Yeah, it has Morgan Freeman.
I must have saw a different movie then.
Yeah,
no, I didn't. Then I didn't see it.
You got to watch it. You got to watch it if you can. Morgan Freeman and Renee Russo. That's the name of the lady, as well as everyone's favorite Kevin Spacey.
Yes,
he's well hated around these parts.
Is he?
Yeah, people don't like him very much. But that's to be accepted by now. And of course, the movie Outbreak back in '95. Definitely watch it, Paul, if you haven't already. Which you haven't. But yes, I recommend it, Paul.
Okay.
Got to get on that.
Focuses on what I believe is an Ebola breakout, correct?
You'll see a subtitle there that says Fort Detrick, Paul.
No kidding.
I'm not even joking. Right in the beginning. I was watching this.
I mean, it is amazing how the arts mimic reality, or maybe there's hinting that what's to come. I don't know. It's weird. It really is weird.
That's exactly what I had in my mind when I was watching it with a cold one in my hand and a pocket full of memories. And I'm laying there and I see Fort Detrick come up there and I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. What a coincidence. We were just talking about that. But yeah, go ahead and watch that whenever you can, Paul. And to jump back into the serious nature that is COVID-19, I was just curious what your thoughts and opinions were on individuals who have tested very low, or rather low death rates of those who are smokers, Paul.
Low death rates when they're smokers?
Yeah, those who smoke for some reason have not been affected. Those that are not smokers.
Where is this data set coming from? The United States?
I'm gonna have to look that
up. Europe, or because the question, the researchers are saying quite the opposite. We thought that the reason why there was such a high death rate for Asian males originally was that the ACE2 receptor was upregulated in males, and that it was upregulated even more so in Asian males versus Caucasian males. But the reality of the situation is that most of the data at that time was Asians, because it was coming from Asia, and most
I got
Asians,
the study now, by the way. I pulled up the article.
Most Asians during that outbreak, for the data set, the males smoked and the females did not. So they had more ACE2. Now in Italy, they also smoked. So that was helped to explain how it burned through the society so quickly.
Pretty much everybody in Europe smokes.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not aware of data stating that smokers are better off than non-smokers. Because
it's a really weird thing.
ACE2 is upregulated when you smoke.
Yeah. Having said that, is there a difference between those who smoke marijuana and those who smoke cigarettes? Does it affect one?
I think cigarettes are worse, because you got cigarettes has like 7,000 different carcinogens in it,
chemicals and stuff.
Well,
I was just wondering if it's just because when you smoke, whether you smoke marijuana or anything for that matter, you're inhaling smoke, which is not natural.
Probably not good for you.
Right. But the question you asked was which one was better.
Well, weed is obviously better, but
right. But but the thing is, here is that if you had three different groups, and you were measuring ACE2 expression, non-smoker, weed smoker, or cigarette smoker, you probably would see the cigarette smoker having more ACE2.
More problems.
Now, yeah, more problems. Now, what's interesting about weed is that there are compounds in it that are actually protease inhibitors for 3CL, which is no, I'm dead serious.
Wow.
But the thing is it's the compound within it that's important, and it has to be delivered in the right way. And if you do it, if you're smoking, then you're creating an inflammatory response that's making it worse, because you're creating the cytokines to spread the inflammation
in your lungs,
so,
especially.
Right. So the compound within marijuana, there are therapeutic compounds in it called terpenoids and lignoids that you can, that are actually protease inhibitors.
So it's better to actually ingest it than to smoke it.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Hits you harder too, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
No. But the thing is, that people need to realize that in nature, there are lots of pharmaceuticals that are chemicals or compounds that could be extracted from nature that are very beneficial to us. But it's about the quantity, and it's about when you're taking it and why you're taking it. When it's habitual, it could be a problem. It could actually cause damage. But if you have a problem, let's say a medical condition, and you're using some of these compounds, then it's very beneficial to fight the disease. So it's like, I'm not saying take it every day, chronically, to do protease inhibiting, because you need proteases to fold your natural proteins just for everyday metabolic activity. So you don't want to be chronic about it, because it actually can make you sick. But if you have a viral infection, especially a coronavirus, the 3CL protease is a conserved region of the genome for all beta coronaviruses, or let's just say most beta coronaviruses, especially the ones that we're dealing with.
Absolutely.
So so that's why I keep on saying the protease inhibitors, especially the lignoids and terpenoids, are very good compounds to investigate for protease inhibiting to stop the viral load in the cells when they get infected.
Now, Paul, I do have the article with me that I read this from, and I should have brought it up before I even mentioned it, but this came from, I guess, multiple Chinese studies showing that COVID-19 hospital patients contained a smaller portion of smokers than the general population, 6.5% compared to 26.6%. And another study says, this is by America's Centers for Disease Control, of over 7,000 people who tested positive for coronavirus, found that just 1.3% of them were smokers, against the 14% of all Americans that the CDC says smoke.
It's shocking.
I don't know what to make of it.
Dive into the research and exactly how they do the sampling. And
I'll send you the link.
But,
yeah.
Yes, I'm not familiar with that study. I would have to dive in a little deeper. Not only that, who are the sponsors of the study?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Was it R.J. Reynolds?
Yeah,
Philip Morris.
I can't. Right, I can't say for sure, but it's pretty trippy. And I think I saw this on the Daily Mail. I'm sure they have a pretty shaky track record for the most part.
Yeah, I would have to dive into the data set and understand it specifically.
It is interesting.
It might be the methodology of the study might be a little bit biased.
Have you known any Asians who died of lung cancer? I don't. And I know a lot of Asians who smoke, and their lungs are solid.
Well, here's the problem. People don't realize that you can get cancers from smoking, and they're not lung cancers. It is not uncommon to get bladder cancers from smoking. Wow. So these carcinogens get into your bloodstream and move around, and eventually they find a weakness in your body, And then you have a cell that starts to divide incorrectly, and it develops a tumor. So people need to realize that smoking is not just lung cancer. Smoking causes other cancers that are just as deadly. Yeah, just as deadly.
In other words, don't smoke.
Exactly. Don't smoke. I mean,
Yeah, don't smoke.
My mother has smoked for over 40 years, and she has severe COPD. And this is the main reason why I'm very scared about her getting COVID-19, because she barely can breathe on a good day, let alone if she gets COVID-19.
Oh my.
So she has diabetes, she has epilepsy, she has heart disease. I mean, she's a very, very complicated case if she had COVID-19, and she would not work well with hydroxychloroquine, with the CPAC. It would be hard to handle the side effects, let alone the comorbidities. So people need to realize that these lifestyles that people choose do come back to haunt them.
Maybe not the healthiest
Now, there are rare cases where a guy smokes a cigarette every day and drinks a martini and lives until he's 110, but that's rare. I mean, the far majority of the people have do get ailments of some sort.
Do you contribute that to genetics, perhaps?
Well, part of it is genetics. Part of it's epigenetics, where you could have perfect genetics, but the methylation of the genes, what's on and off, is incorrect. Or it could be also, so that we call that epigenetics, or it also could be proteomic, where it's not the right protein concentration at the right time within the cells. So it's an orchestra. It's not as simple as just ATCG on the genome. It's if ATCG has been turned off or on in the right cell. I mean, view it this way: we have the same genome when we're just a blastocyst, when we're from an egg and a sperm, right? We're just one type of cell. Eventually, those cells learn to divide and differentiate. They differentiate by turning on and off different genes, and those cells that are turning on and off signal to each other that they're going to turn into different tissues. That's how a human develops in the womb. So if certain cells are not turning on or off certain genes at the right time, cancers can arise. So you can have the right genes, but just the wrong methylation.
I'll tell you, again, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say I had smoked for a little over 10 years, and quitting cigarettes was one of the best things I ever did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it's very hard for me. It's very hard for people, though. I mean, I've seen my mom try and try.
All I did was I weaned myself off them one at a time. And before I knew it, I was down to like one a day, then one every other day, then like half or 3/4. And before I knew it, I was completely over them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Best
well, that's
thing
good. That's great that you kicked the habit. Unfortunately, there's an awful lot of people that my mother that just weren't able to. And and it's
so mom is still smoking, Paul.
My mother still smokes.
Still smoking? Oh no.
Yeah. And the thing is that here's the strange thing about it: because of her comorbidities, if she stopped smoking, it would put things out of kilter. It would affect her diabetes and it would affect her heart, and then they would exacerbate the COPD. Yep.
Because she's so used to it? Is that why you're saying that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And not only that, they have her in check right now with the medication she's on. So if she started quitting, it would throw it out of kilter.
Oh,
they'd have to recalibrate the medication. Then the seizures might kick in.
Oh, that's not good. That's pretty heavy duty stuff there, Paul.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she was 6 years old when she had epilepsy.
Oh my.
I mean, I remember as a kid, seeing it all the time. It wasn't. I mean, that's why I think I was just. I was later in life. As I kind of grew up, I think I was meant to be, a physician. An MD. Because
Yeah.
I've seen it at a young age. I've seen a lot of death and a lot of disease.
In your
very
family,
young.
yeah. We talked
Yeah.
very briefly about that, and of course, your brother's death is what really was the catalyst for you to get into a medical school, correct?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
understand.
He's. I mean, heart disease runs on my mother's side of the family, rampant for males. I mean, it's like 80% of the males die early.
Damn.
Between age 35 to 45. But the thing is it's not just genetic or let's say epigenetic, but it's also environmental. If you have the right habits, dietary habits, then your chances of getting the heart disease drastically goes down. And that's what I did. I mean, I saw so many uncles die so young that I just got into this whole antioxidant health kick thing when I was 16 years old, and was straight laced, and and was always working out, did triathlons, and I was always doing vitamins and minerals and all these antioxidants at high doses, and so I didn't fall in that trap. But my brother Dan did. He didn't watch his weight. He didn't watch what he was eating. He had a high sugar, high carbohydrate diet. He, gained weight and had a lot of, high blood pressure, and they weren't able to control it. And he had a lot of plaque depositing, through that inflammation.
Do you think that cigarette corporations should be put out of business?
Yeah, definitely. After seeing what has happened to my mother, it's, if you don't know someone that you love, going through the addiction of it and trying, and how it destroys the body, then you won't really understand what these companies did to people. You really have to see it at the ground, at the ground level of what this is doing to families.
I understand. Individuals per se. I mean, the thing is, I always felt that it's not the cigarette companies that twist your arm to smoke. I mean, they're not the ones that put that cigarette in your mouth and light the end. But I kind of understand where you're coming from. I understand.
Yeah. I mean, because the quality of life that I had with my mother isn't as good as, let's say, some of my friends had with their mothers. She was pretty much, indoors, most of my adulthood life, because of her issues. Well, other friends, their, parents are very vibrant, they're out and about, and that's not my mother. She's not, she can't do that. I mean, she has a hard time just going to the mailbox, without, having a cardiac arrest.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. I mean, it's,
Yeah, and then there are those individuals out there who worked out their entire lives, were so healthy, and all of a sudden they have a brain aneurysm.
Yeah.
Or they just have a heart attack out of nowhere for no reason. I mean,
or they
happened.
Just get hit by a bus.
Or that too.
On Broadway.
Yeah. Life is crazy though, man. Like, you never know. And look at us in this situation that we're in. Life changed overnight for all of us.
Yeah.
Shit is wild.
Definitely. And that's why we have to appreciate life every day, because you don't know what's going to happen when you wake up. If you wake up, in the morning. Yes, I mean, appreciate every day and view it as it's a gift.
I view it that way as well, Mike. I mean, Paul. I was going to say, Mike, how do you feel about that? Or did we lose Mike already?
I think we lost him.
Yeah, I think he was fighting with the bird.
He was attacked by his bird.
I think that's what happened to him. Yeah, because I thought I had seen him pop up here. I thought he was trying to talk. That's why I called you Mike. Oh no. Yeah,
he'll have to call back.
Yeah, he's
But
gone.
yeah, every day we have to view as it's being it's a special day and a gift and try to make the best of it. But not to have people take advantage of us either. We got to call off individuals that are trying to take advantage of us.
I agree. And for anyone out there who wants to call in, the number is up on that screen there. Yes, and that is the accurate number, 760-332-8724. For those who have vision issues, that is the number for you. And Mike, are you back yet?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know what happened at that point.
We were afraid that it was your birds attacked you.
Like the movie Birds.
Right.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's a good movie, by the way.
Yeah, it was. I mean, all of Alfred Hitchcock's stuff was pretty good.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one.
That and Twilight Zone. I like Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone, yeah, Twilight Zone was good. And, I've been watching a lot of movies lately, and I saw The X-Files again, and it's been a long time, Paul. And there was a scene in the film The X-Files from back in 98, and I have a clip for you, Paul. I thought I'd share that with you, even though it's not really about the same subject, but the context is right up there. Are you ready? Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
All right.
For what?
Because I'm a dangerous man, because I know too much about the truth.
Now that end of the world apocalyptic garbage, you right?
You know my work? I was right about Dallas, wasn't I?
How were you right?
You familiar with the hantavirus, Agent Mulder?
Yeah, it was a deadly virus spread by field mice in the southwestern United States several years ago.
According to the newspaper, FEMA was called out to manage an outbreak of the hantavirus. You familiar with what the Federal Emergency Management Agency's real power is?
I just wanted to pause it really quickly there and say that is a legit virus, by the way.
Oh, yeah. And not only that, that's the secondary virus infection in China.
Amazing. Let's roll that clip still.
FEMA allows the White House to suspend constitutional government upon declaration of a national emergency. Think about that. What is an agency with such broad sweeping power doing managing a small viral outbreak in suburban Texas?
You're saying it wasn't such a small outbreak?
No. I'm saying it wasn't the hantavirus.
Well, what was it? What was it?
When we were young men in the military, your father and I were recruited for a project. They told us it was biological warfare, a virus.
What killed those men?
What killed them, I won't even write about. We have no context for what killed those men, or any appreciation of the scale at which it'll be unleashed in the future.
A plague?
A plague to end all plagues, Agent Mulder. A silent weapon for a quiet war. The systematic release.
A silent weapon. A silent war. I mean, wow.
There is. I loved The X-Files.
How creepy.
I was a huge fan. I don't remember seeing that episode, but I'm sure I did.
No. This is a movie.
Because you said it was. Oh, this was in the movie?
This is the movie in 98. You got to watch it again, Paul.
Okay, I'll have to. So this is the oil? Is this the oil, eye oil thing that they're talking about? That causes the eye oil, where the humans start becoming a little bit more alien?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Is this on Netflix?
No, this one is not on Netflix. But if you
Damn it.
If you type in a search engine and you just put an X-Files,
I saw the movie, I just can't remember. But but I was huge fan of X-Files, and I think it's Carter that actually Chris Carter, isn't it, that made the X-Files? He actually borrowed that concept that Alfred Hitchcock did in filming. Not to show too much of the horror, leave enough of your imagination to run wild. That's why X-Files was so good.
That's a great way to write. In fact, in my personal opinion, one of the best movies that was ever made that utilized that was a movie called The Blair Witch Project, which as a result created all the the type of movies that we have from a realistic point of view. That what do they call that?
Point of view.
Point of view, but there's another word for it.
Found footage.
No. Live TV? No. Documentary TV? All these like these silly shows that we had, like MTV had The Real World, and all these kind of television shows where everything was shot without a script and that sort of thing. When
Yeah,
they
it's
shot
called
Blair Witch.
Yeah, it's called found footage. That's the category now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when Blair Witch came out, a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, the shaking of the camera, and I didn't see any monster." That was the beauty of it. It made you use your brain. It's like reading a book.
Yep, exactly. That's why I loved the X-Files. But back specifically to what Michael was hinting at with the clip, this is actually
pretty
kind
wild.
of scary.
Yeah,
because
we have more to play, by the way, but go ahead.
Like I said early on in this broadcast and on other broadcasts, on other channels, this is starting to become a blood disease by infecting the red blood cells and the T cells through the CD147 pathway, and that it could lay dormant because you can have cells that go into what is called G0 cycle. And that's a cell that doesn't divide. It doesn't grow. It just kind of just sits there. And if you have virus in those types of cells, and then all of a sudden it starts to divide again several years later, and I'm talking about like memory T cells, memory B cells. We have, memory cells within our tissue to just sit there waiting for a possible infection to re-arise. And it would start to divide again and create the antibodies that it needs, create this immune system signaling to create more antibodies to fight.
Paul, I have a question for you.
I can see it laying dormant. So that's weird.
Yeah, it's
Paul,
I have a question for you. What if, let's just say, hypothetical situation, a person catches the virus, okay? They get infected and they live through it. Does that mean that their immune system has built up to it and their chances of getting it again may be slimmer? Is it better to get the virus and live through it?
Well, it just depends. That's the right answer. It just depends. But when you do get, in general, when you do get infected and you survive, you will build up antibodies. The problem comes is the reinfection. If you get reinfected, one thing that possibly could happen is that you get something called antibody dependent enhancement, which basically means your antibody, when it gets a mutation of the pathogen now, could enhance the virulence of the second infection.
Meaning,
so basically, if you built an antibody from the first version of this pathogen,
right?
If you got the second version of it, it may be worse for you than someone that never had the infection ever.
So there's
they had the second infection and never the second version, never the first version. So, but that's a possibility. It's more on the unlikely category, but it does happen. Another thing that can happen is that when you develop an antibody, that antibody could cause an autoimmune disorder and attack, let's say, central nervous system myelin sheaths on the axon, similar to MS, or other neurological diseases like peripheral nervous system disorders.
So basically, we're screwed.
Well, I always put the worst out first, and then I'll tell you the best.
Okay.
All right. So, and then there's the possibility that you have an antibody, and the mutation on the second version of that pathogen is close to your antibody, and your antibody attacks it, and you don't feel the infection at all, or a very mild case of it. So it really depends on how different the mutations are between version 1 to version 2, and what type of antibody is created. Does it create this antibody dependent enhancement? Does it create an autoimmune disorder? Or, is it so close to the original that it attacks it? If it's not close to the original, then your antibody won't work, and you will have to create new antibodies. So you have to go through it all over again. This is part of the reason why seasonal flus happen. It's because the replicase is so bad, it makes mistakes all the time. So in relative terms, influenza replicase makes more mistakes than the coronavirus. So mutation rates will be slower with the coronavirus than influenza.
Yeah, I was just going to mention about the mutations that are out there. And of course, from my understanding, there's 2 strains, right? Or are there 3 now?
I've heard there were 3. Now, I don't know what the 3rd strain is. I'm working on the assumption that there are 2, but I have heard that there are 3, but I haven't seen where is the genomic code for it. And until I see the genomic code, I'm just going to say that it's just a rumor.
Understood. And going back months ago, you saw the mainstream media sort of downplay COVID-19. Why do you suppose that, Paul? Why were there so many individuals in the media dismissing this completely?
Well, I mean, it depends on what time frame we're looking at here. Early on,
very early in the game. Yeah, very early
on in the game, they were dismissing it because they could just say, well, the only infections that we had were expats, and they came from other countries. And so it was that American hubris, thinking, it couldn't happen to me. And I mentioned on your first show, it's similar to the Lehman crash. It was only subprime borrowers. Don't worry about the prime borrowers. But they didn't realize systemic risk. It's the same thing here. They thought it was just the expats that were coming over from an Asian country that had the problem. We probably had this back in the United States back in November.
Paul, is it my understanding that all these viruses, such as SARS and the other ones whose names escape me,
MERS,
do they all
SARS, right?
Do they all come from Asia?
MERS came from the Middle East.
Oh,
that's
okay.
what the M stands for is middle MER. It's the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome.
I see. So it's not always just Asia.
No.
Okay.
In the case of MERS, it came from camels. So that's hence, why it came from the Middle East. Most of these SARS or SARS-like viruses right now that are, hitting the population and in years past were from bats. And that's why there was so much scientific research going into, what was going on with SARS or SARS-like coronaviruses within the bat population.
Wow. Do you think that, and this is just like a crazy long shot question, have you ever heard of the white nose fungus that affected all the bats from Canada to Mexico?
No.
There was an epidemic in the bat community, for lack of a better term, that wiped out millions and millions of bats. It was basically a fungus. And as I said, it's called white nose fungus, and it wiped out millions of them from Canada right down to South America. And millions and millions and millions of bats were either killed by the virus or by the fungus, or were put down by people. I guess you would call that environment protection people. I don't know, but my question is: do you think a disease like that would enhance this virus that weekend, or is that completely separate, a completely separate thing that's affecting the bats themselves?
Well, the fungus is you got different pathogens. So you have like bacteria, you have fungus, fungi, you have viral, you have parasitic. So it's a different pathogen. So I would say I would put it in it's a totally different category.
Okay, just curious.
I think I've heard that before, Mike. The fungus.
About white nose? Oh, it was massive.
I remember reading about that.
I'll tell you how I found out about it. I went hiking one day in 2000, I believe it was 2008. Might have been 2007. I can't remember. But I pull into this, parking lot, like this dry road, dirt road parking lot. And it was February, and it was one of the warmest days we had in February. It was like 65 degrees in February. And I get out of the car, and I'm looking around. There's bats flying all over the place in broad daylight. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So as I begin to walk about, I don't know, maybe 300 yards, I see a sign that says Bat Cave. So I walk towards the Bat Cave, and basically it's an old mine. This was in New Jersey. It's an old mine that's sealed up with just about maybe about a foot worth of space where the bats can go in and out of the cave. And I'm standing there, and there's bats everywhere, all around me, just flying out. They're on the rocks, they're on the trees, they're flying around. And I'm standing about 10 feet from the opening of this mine. And I had my camera, I was just getting into photography. I was taking all these amazing pictures of bats. And I call a friend of mine in New Jersey, this guy named Joe D'Angeli, who is actually what we call the Batman of New Jersey. He is a certified, I don't know what the word would be, batologist, and he is allowed to raise and care for bats. He was also part of the Audubon Society when I was a member in New Jersey. And so I called him on the phone right away. I'm like, dude, you're not going to believe what's going on. I'm standing here in New Jersey in White Trails, Wildcat Trails by a bat cave, and there's bats all over the place. I said, what's up? He's like, most likely, he said, that it's probably because these bats are infected with white nose, and they come out on a warm day because the UV rays from the sun kill the fungus. However, the bats were unable to expend a lot of energy, because if they expend too much energy, they will not survive for the rest of the winter by going back into the cave and going into hibernation. So it was like watching these bats fly in slow motion, literally, like they were literally almost hovering as they flew past you. I could have reached out and caught them with my hands.
Wow. That's pretty low.
It was amazing.
And by the way,
That's
Mike,
cool.
you were right. It is a batologist.
It is batologist. Okay, so
got it.
His name is Joe D'Angeli. He's a good friend of mine from New Jersey.
And what's interesting, there's different species of bats, and the specific species I think you're talking about is a different species than the
fruit bat.
Then it's a fruit bat. So the species that we're talking about dealing with beta coronavirus is horseshoe.
Horseshoe,
bat.
Right? That's the
horseshoe bat. Okay,
right. That's the really ugly looking little bastard.
Right.
Yeah.
And bats are kind of cute, some of them, but not that one. That one has a really just horrid face.
Of course.
I love bats, man. I love them. They're like little flying mice. I love them.
I don't know if people will love them anymore after this, though, Mike.
I don't know. I think owls are pretty cool.
Owls are okay.
Owls. I got owls up here, man. Blow your mind.
Owls are awesome.
They sure are.
And before I forget, let's play the rest of that audio from the X-Files.
Right on.
Of an indiscriminate organism for which the men who will bring it on still have no cure. They've been working on this for 50 years. While the rest of the world have been fighting crooks and commies, these men have been secretly negotiating a planned Armageddon.
Negotiating with whom?
I think you know. The timetable has been set. It'll happen on a holiday when people are away from their homes. The president will declare a state of emergency, at which time all government, all federal agencies will come under the power of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. the secret government.
They call me paranoid.
Go back to Dallas, Agent Mulder, and dig. Or we're going to find out along with the rest of the country.
Pretty wild stuff there.
That is frightening. FEMA. Wow.
Right,
The secret government. Oh my.
Well, I don't, do you think that that's what's going on, is that FEMA's taking over the country?
No.
I don't know if they're taking over the country, but they definitely have a say in things.
Well, I have someone that helps me with research. She's an older woman. She doesn't have anything else to do and she can't sleep. So she keeps on texting me, and she just texts me. She texts me at about 7:45 today.
That's early.
At PM.
Oh, PM.
No, PM.
Okay.
And she goes, "Call me when you get a chance. Joint Task Force, National Capital Region has been activated to secure the capital." And it's tied into this idea that FEMA is taking over.
Wait a minute, I don't quite understand.
And this is in Newsweek. Okay, so I have this old elderly woman that's helping me.
Right. I got all that. I'm trying to understand what she said.
And she texts me. And sometimes her information is like really good, really solid. Some of it's like way off on the
X-Files.
Yeah, it's beyond X-Files. It's like Z-Files. She texts me at 7:45 or 7:46 p.m. today. Call me when you get a chance. Joint Task Force, National Capital Region has been activated to secure the capital. And then she quotes Newsweek. I haven't called her. But I mean, this is like, and then, let's say yesterday, she texts me and goes, "Dr. Paul, remember when Julian Assange warned about smart dust? Could some of the COVID-19 patients also have been exposed to smart dust via geoengineering from the sky?" So this is the kind of stuff that I get from, people that watch my channel.
Covering all bases.
It's all over the place. It's all over the place, So I mean, and I have to, and I spend some time, to debunk that type of stuff. But but it would be there is a working theory out there that FEMA is taking over the states, superseding the governors and superseding the president. Now, I don't believe it, especially with the personality of Trump.
I was just going to say the very same thing.
I don't believe it with the personality of Trump. Now, under Obama or maybe George Bush Jr., I could see that.
Yep.
But not under Trump. So I put that in the Z-file category.
It's a bit of a hard sell, as I like to say on the show.
Yeah.
But things have been odd.
But I get that daily. I get that type of stuff daily.
I'm sure you get all kinds of wild things.
Mm-hmm. I get people, sending me email, if you eat a pomegranate a day and you jump on the left foot 15 times, that it'll cure COVID-19.
All right.
By the way, who I've really been enjoying lately is Dr. Drew. For those that don't know, I grew up listening to Loveline. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to do a show, to be honest with you. That was the catalyst for me, Paul. That is what got me interested in doing this with you and Mike here. It was the show Loveline. Cool. Yeah, but Dr. Drew, as of late, oh my God, I've been very disappointed in Dr. Drew. He's had this wrong for such a long time, and I'm sure he did apologize. I remember him specifically saying that he was sorry for playing this down, and now he's all in.
Well, I did a video about Dr. Oz and Dr. Drew.
Did you?
Maybe 2 weeks ago, about them coming out of a studio after a filming, and they're being interviewed by, was it TMZ? I think is that
I believe it was.
And they just asked a question, how's it going? And then Dr. Drew was talking for 5 minutes about how it wasn't, real, and it was all in people's imagination, and it's all paranoia, and that it's just the flu and all this, and I have respect for him, especially when he called it right when it came to the health of Hillary Clinton. And then they deep sixed his his show on TV after that.
Wow. No shit.
Right,
yeah.
right.
And
I recall.
And and now he's been trying to rebuild himself since that situation. So I think that he wasn't really willing to stick his neck out and state the things that we're talking about because of that event with Hillary Clinton. But the evidence is so obvious that he was wrong from the very beginning. And I'll tell you, I mean, we'll be talking in 3 weeks and we're going to be saying, you know what? I told you it was going to be a blood disease, and that we're going to start seeing probably cancers 5 to 10 years down the road that are related to COVID-19. That the ones that didn't die will have some sort of weird immune system disorder. That's
the ones
like
who were
AIDS.
infected.
Yeah.
The ones who were infected. Okay.
Yeah.
Who would
That will
have
have this
known?
weird disease that we'll call AIDS-like until we have a better term for it.
Like I said on the last couple shows, Mike, I'll repeat it again. It's kind of insane that a goddamn Pokemon and the bat are responsible for the collapse of America and the rest of the world. It's pretty insane.
Yep.
That goddamn pangolin.
Right. And you think about how many trillions and trillions, maybe tens of trillions of dollars that we've spent in weapons defense, and, and it was Pokemon that got us.
Pretty much.
And
It's
the interesting thing is that I spoke about this with Michael. Maybe I mentioned it to you, Doc, when you were on a while back. But there was a series I watched on Netflix called Pandemic, and this was before this all went down. I watched it in, I think it was late February, just before like it hit, like before the whole thing really got big. And one of the most amazing things I found to be on the program was that there was one particular doctor or researcher, I don't know what she was, but she mentioned something about how important it is for us to prepare for such a pandemic, and yet we hadn't actually been that prepared, if at all, when this thing hit. So it was a real eye-opener.
Oh, absolutely. And what's interesting is as journalists, we're digging into the history back in, I think it was 2016, maybe it was 2017, but Cuomo decided not to use state funds to buy ventilators and stockpile them, and he allocated those funds for something. Yeah, exactly. So it was, they were pushing, climate change, and they weren't focused on
Green New Deal.
Right, exactly. And I did a video when I wrote to him early on about Buffalo being, some early confirmed COVID-19 cases by the CDC, when the CDC was the only place that was testing. And we had this insider information from a healthcare worker at the hospital in Buffalo. And I called the governor's office saying, "What's going on?" And I went up the chain, and we even played.
We played the audio.
Played the audio on this, and didn't get really anywhere with it. I did write a letter to them, and then about 3-4 days later, he sends a letter back stating, "Thank you for sending us your opinions about policies and everything, but I want to reaffirm New York State that my number one priority is climate change."
Oh my God.
And I was like, and I did a filming of reading the letter, and I said, "You got to be fucking kidding me. The most important thing right now is climate change, when you have the possibility of of this running through the state and killing tons of people." I mean, it's just like I couldn't believe it.
It just goes to show you. It goes to show you where a lot of these people's their minds are and their priorities are. Don't get me wrong. It's all it's important to be utilize ecology methods and everything like that, and take care of things. This is our only planet. But at the same time, like, God,
like they pushed the narrative so much, like, oh, in 10 years, the world's going to end if we don't start. Come on, really?
Mm-hmm.
No, not actually. What would happen is in about another 1,000 years, when humanity fucking kills itself, the earth is going to shake us off like a bunch of fleas, and it's going to start all over again. And then we will then become that extinct species like the dinosaurs and blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
Green Deal. Give me a break.
The earth. I think it was a lyric from Megadeth. I don't remember which song, but it's something like the earth doesn't need saving. It just needs to be left alone.
That's true, though.
I think George Carlin said the same thing.
Yeah, the world will be fine without humans. That's pretty obvious. The world will be just fine without us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
we are a cancer to the world.
We don't have to save the earth. I mean, the earth has a natural healing process. What it is it's big money, pushing into new industries, green industries. Some of them are really good technologies. Tesla, I think, is a great technology in terms of cars. And the idea of solar city, putting panels on your home and then you charge up your car and you don't have to use gas. It's a great idea. It's totally self-sufficient. But these other, wacky, ideas of, don't drink straws, don't have this, don't have that, don't, walk outside on Tuesdays and all this stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, they're just trying to control you.
Well, here's where I'm conflicted with things right now. The conundrum that is the economy and those out there who want to remain safe away from possible contact of COVID-19. Should we open the economy up everywhere? I know Trump wants to, and I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong. I would love for the economy to be back up and running and all of that. But of course, I'm also concerned about those individuals out there who might even get sick. And even worse, if everything goes back to some normalcy.
This is what I think needs to happen. We need to continue, because we're just starting to flatten the curve in some areas, while other states,
which is true, they're still climbing. We still need to follow the shelter-in-place policies. It is going to hurt the economy, and the government needs to backstop small businesses and tell those banks that you have to extend the loans. You cannot foreclose on these people. It's going to be illegal to foreclose.
Right.
So, and that will protect people from losing their homes and their property. But what also has to happen, while the citizens, follow these guidelines to try to keep everybody safe in the country, what really needs to happen is that the government needs to, one, come to terms with its citizenry and, state that, what, we did have a weapons program in Fort Detrick. And, oh, by the way, we did fund the weapons program and the development at Wuhan. And, oh, by the way, Fauci was involved. And, oh, by the way, we're going to have a congressional hearing on it. I want to see some action by Congress.
Me too.
Asking questions.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I know it's going to be hard. I mean, it's easy to do it's amazing how fast they can galvanize to do P-gate, but you can't get anything for Congress to investigate for Fauci writing checks, from under departments of the NIH to Wuhan facility.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's just like, but we could spend $30 million on P-gate. It's sad.
It really is. It really is. And of course, another thing that's very sad is watching Joe Biden up there.
Oh,
I think he has dementia, to be honest.
I feel bad because he had two aneurysms.
There we go.
One was in the 70s and one was in the 80s. But and he had surgery. And the thing is that there is, because of these surgeries and these aneurysms, it wouldn't surprise me that he has developed some necrotic tissue diseased tissue or dead tissue in certain areas for speech.
And that's what we're seeing.
That's related to this. So I really feel bad because he really does have a medical condition. And when people that have a medical condition, especially when they're elderly, you don't want to you don't want to tease them or anything like that. But
definitely.
because it could happen to anybody. But he should also look in the mirror and realize that he's not the type of person that he was in the 90s.
Not at all.
And he's not fit to run for president. He should just be honest to the American public and honest to himself, honest to his family.
It's been really bad.
He doesn't have the wherewithal to be president.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
It's been weird watching him. And of course, Obama, he's now endorsing him. And I believe I have.
One thing we've learned as a country.
There he is.
Of great crisis. It's that the spirit of
Here's
looking
Mike's
out
boy.
for one another can't be restricted to our homes or our workplaces or our neighborhoods or our houses of worship. It also has to be reflected in our national government. The kind of leadership that's guided by knowledge and experience, honesty and humility, empathy and grace. That kind of leadership doesn't just belong in our state capitals and mayor's offices. It belongs in the White House. And that's why I'm so proud to endorse Joe Biden for President of the United States. Choosing Joe to be my vice president was one of the best decisions I ever made, and he became a close friend. And I believe Joe has all the qualities we need in a president right now. Now's the time to fight for what we believe in.
Yeah.
So join us.
Tell Vladimir I'll have more room after the election.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Biden wasn't honest. His son was on the take with Ukraine.
We all know that, but nobody wants to face it.
I mean, it's just, and he's not. I mean, and knowledge. I mean, it's deteriorating by the second with that guy. I mean, come on.
Now I do have one more.
I mean, I swear,
Go ahead.
I'm half joking and I'm half not.
We know
this next comment.
We gotcha.
With this next, I was very serious about the last comment.
Word.
But the next comment, I'm half serious. You know what? This country needs me to run for president in 2024.
Oh shit!
All right, I'll vote for you.
Is this the first time
I
you've
mean,
announced this?
Can you imagine me going up on stage and and telling these politicians, like how I call Jason Goodman off?
I would love that.
As being I mean, just these
Trump.
I mean, vote for me and we're going to tear down those damn 5G towers.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, all right. I love it.
We're voting for Paul. It's been decided.
A campaign for him, Michael.
We're going to have to.
Yeah, it's I swear, it's like I never really wanted to run for office, but I'll tell you what, we need some ass kickers in the White House.
Yep.
And clobber some heads, and just move the country forward and really bring back freedom instead of this crazy legalese, I don't know, smorgasbord that we got right now. It's just like the
AOCs
is sad.
Of Congress.
Yeah. Oh God, AOC is such an idiot.
Oh, she's a moron. Oh.
What it was is that she was hot. She was hot.
Doc.
You know what it is? She looks hot, and that's why people voted for her.
Hot. She doesn't look hot.
I mean, you're talking about New York standards, okay? You're dealing.
Very true. Good point. Paul's right.
The
rating scale is a lot different there.
We're not talking about California standards.
That's right. Paul knows. He's smart.
But I just it is amazing though, how Congress has gone off of the rails here and destroying the Constitution. And I mentioned on your show, when Nancy Pelosi tore up that speech, during the State of the Union address, just imagine if that was the Constitution. I mean, that's what it's all about a publicity stunt. It's all about projecting this, feminism and that any white guy is against females and all this. And it's like, oh my God, she is such. I know. Someone needs to just run and just say, hey, I'm a guy, and I have testosterone, and I'm just going to kick some ass.
I love that.
You know?
And that's what we need. But you know what? Here's one of the problems, Doc. We've got too many loopholes that allow judges, Supreme Court, Congress, I'm not sure what other walks of politics, but they're in there. Some of them are appointed for life. No. 8 years maximum. Get the hell out. Let's get somebody new.
Yep.
That's how it should be all the way around. No appointing for life. Look at Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders has been in politics forever.
Forever.
He has never worked a real job. So what the hell does he know about the working man? Nothing.
And I'd just like to add to what you're saying. He's been a communist his whole damn life.
How the hell did that even happen? How did we let a communist get to the point of almost becoming president or at least running for president? How does that even happen in this country?
I know. Because I'm working on my master's at Harvard, in Massachusetts, you're walking around Cambridge, around campus between MIT and Harvard. It's Bernie land, man. It's complete Bernie land. Everyone's got Bernie stickers all over the place.
Same with Portland.
Yeah, well, they're all feeling
it's crazy land there.
Well, they're all feeling the burn right now, Paul.
Yeah.
They definitely are.
I wonder how many of them started to bawl their eyes out when they found out that he conceded from the race.
It's a beautiful thing.
Do you think? Yeah. Do you think that he was told, okay, step aside and here's some dough? Here's some.
I would have to
here's
say
some kickback.
So. I would have to imagine.
Did they do that with the Hillary Clinton, right, Michael?
Well, I don't think he's going to give it back. He's not going to give back that money. He's going to pocket that.
Yeah, he's a socialist. He's not going to give back any of the damn money that he's been getting. Oh, it's my money, but I can't give it away.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. They love using other people's money until it runs out. They got all these great ideas with other people's money, and then when they run out, they don't have a solution.
Well, that's the problem with socialism and communism. They want to, they project this idea that it's all about the people, all about helping the people. But what it really is about propping them up into this, upper class, power class that's ruling from top down. They don't believe in bottom up government, like what our founding fathers believed.
Look at North Korea. Who's the richest guy in the whole country? That little fat twerp. Everybody else is starving.
Right.
Oh, they got plenty of military, lots of bombs and this, that, and the other, missiles, tanks, guns, whatever you name it. But everybody's starving. They're eating grass.
And what's interesting is the propaganda videos. He's walking around the manufacturing facilities in North Korea.
Oh yeah.
Kim Jong-un is telling people how to tape boxes the correct way on the manufacturing floor. I mean, and we're supposed to worry. Yeah, but we're supposed to worry about North Korea if half the population doesn't know how to tape a box. I mean, come on, man. I mean, I don't believe the power projection of the North Koreans. I think it's much, much weaker than what people say.
By the way, I thought Mike called him a fat twat. Had to do a double take there.
I think he's a super fat twat.
Well, I don't disagree. And Paul, you brought up some points earlier, and it had my mind wondering. Do you think America would ever be ready for a woman president?
Yes, if it was in the stature of, let's say, Thatcher. Yeah. Someone like Thatcher, not someone like Pelosi, where it's looking down on males and white males specifically. A person like Thatcher that could compete at a very high level against anybody, and articulate well, and to galvanize the nation and to bring people together. But people like Pelosi and Hillary,
oh my God,
they're divisive. They're very divisive, and the country does not want that. So yeah, someone like Thatcher, I could see. an American version of that. Yeah, I can
see.
see that happening.
Understood. I always had the concept in my mind that if the woman is very attractive, the other girls out there, other women out there probably won't vote for her.
Well, that's true, especially if it's California hot.
Exactly.
Michael,
I know we're joking, but it is kind of true, though. Women are very competitive, that's just in their nature.
You know something, Michael? A while back, Pelosi made some sort of comment. Now, this is a while back, so I don't remember exactly what she said, but she was referring to a black neighborhood. And she called it, and she tried to be cool. She said, the hood.
Oh, the hood.
I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, you dumb idiot? Oh, I hate that woman.
Boy.
Oh, my God, I hate her. She's like a walking Skeletor.
Yeah, that is a very unfortunate-looking woman.
I mean, just another friggin' hypocrite. She's one of the richest women in the country. What is she? Is she like governor of California? What does she have to do with San Francisco? What's her affiliation? Anybody know?
Nancy Pelosi, you said?
Well, yeah, Nancy Pelosi, because I'm pretty sure
her affiliation is a senator.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's a senator.
I'm sorry, not a senator, a representative.
Representative of California.
House, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I've heard it mentioned many times that San Francisco is in shambles. Drug addicts on the streets, needles, urine, defecation, pollution. I mean, I've been to San Francisco back in the early 90s when I was a musician. We toured out there. As a matter of fact, the early 90s and in 2000, 2002. It wasn't that bad. Now I heard it's gone to what New York used to look like before Giuliani became mayor. And it's like she can't even handle her own state. And yet all she does is criticize the president. When Donald Trump was dealing with in the beginning of middle of March, when he was dealing with the crisis that we're dealing with, you know what she was doing? She was setting up an investigation against him in a sense that he wasn't doing the proper job right, and therefore he should be investigated. My God, woman, get a life. Start doing your job and shut the F up. I'm so sick of her.
Exactly. And, when they were doing the impeachment for 2.5 years, she let the great state of California burn, literally.
That's right.
And she didn't care. She just let it burn.
Yeah, she's been the representative here since 2013, by the way.
Just
that's unfortunate.
Hypocrite, man. Her, Schumer, Schiff, they're all idiots.
Well, that I
2013, really?
Yeah, since 2013.
I thought she went back farther than that.
She was somewhere. Yeah, she was somewhere else. I believe it was 93, actually.
1833.
1833.
It could have been 1733.
Well, I got that wrong. It was the California 8th district, and that started in 93. But now she's in the 12th district since 2013. I saw that wrong there.
Oh, okay. So she what is it that she just moved to a different district, or was it that was rezoned, or
most likely there could have been something that we don't know about. That tends to happen.
I mean, a lot of these states, they rezoned it, to try to skew the votes.
Right. That's unfortunate. But by the way, Paul, before I even forget, we're about to wrap up pretty soon here. There was a video a listener of mine sent me about some lady who thinks she discovered the cure for COVID-19. And
is this the one with the pomegranate with your hopping it on your left foot 15 times?
I don't think that's it. But let's play the audio. I just wanted your opinion on this. Let's roll this audio here.
Time of sound, mind, and body. And this is not any medical advice. In fact, that's exactly what I encourage you to do, is to please seek out the advice of your medical practitioner, whoever they are. right away. This video is in regards to a treatment for the coronavirus. Here are some facts that we know. Please Google everything I'm saying. I've Googled it a million times. The reason why I'm afraid right now is because I'm afraid of saying something incorrect. I'm afraid of giving somebody false hope. And I'm afraid that nobody will believe me. Actually, correction, I'm not afraid that nobody will believe me, because today, the reason why I'm posting this video is because I needed a shred of confirmation that what I was saying was correct, and I got it. I was watching a video on YouTube of a doctor, Cameron Kyle Seidel, out of Brooklyn. Look it up. Mm-hmm. He said ventilators aren't working. Fact. We know that. Everyone's dying on ventilators. We know this virus is not acting like a normal virus. Pulse ox levels dip way down, and they're struggling for air. They're usually gasping. That's a fact. When it's due to a pneumonia. However, when somebody's presenting with pulmonary edema, which is fluid, in the lungs, but not necessarily caused from pneumonia, they may not be looking like they're struggling for air. So Dr. Seidel said, it's bizarre. It's almost like they're presenting with high altitude sickness. High altitude sickness. Okay. Something went off in my brain. High altitude sickness. He said, I don't know what that means, but all I know is that the parallels between high altitude sickness and the coronavirus are similar. Okay. Don't know where I heard the high altitude sickness, something about mountain sickness, but we're going to put a pin in that for 1 second. So I looked up high altitude sickness. There it was, plain as day. Google it. Low grade fever, couldn't believe it. Dry cough, couldn't believe it. Dizziness, believe that. Shortness of breath, got it. Fluid buildup in the lungs, couldn't believe it. Pulmonary edema, high altitude sickness. He was right. It presents exactly like the coronavirus. 2 years ago, a doctor put a hole in my neck, literally, in the dura mater from an epidural. He made a mistake. Clear malpractice. I got a brain fluid leak. And when you get a CSF leak, a cerebral spinal fluid leak in your brain starts to make extra fluid to try to keep it full. When your body seals it and heals it, your body's still making all that extra fluid, so you go into what's called high pressure. So I would get low pressure headaches and then high pressure headaches. For the high pressure headaches, I remember there's a medicine. And something else that treats that medicine also treats high altitude sickness, mountain sickness. That's where I know that from. So I looked up the medication. I know the brand name is called Diamox, but the generic or the regular name is acetazolamide, ACETAZOLA.
I'm going to pause it there and ask you what you think so far, Paul.
Well, I think she believes what she's saying, and she's trying to help people. I think she's not one of these individuals that are, recording to just, spout off, false knowledge.
Right.
That's one thing. I did get an email from Diamond from Oppenheimer Ranch to analyze her and to analyze this particular drug. Now, and I haven't had the time to do it.
Understood.
And I'm agnostic in terms of, is this the proper treatment or not? But the doctor that she is quoting, Kyle Seidel, I think it is.
Yeah, I think that was his name.
He did a recent video that was saying people are misunderstanding. He did not mean to say that it was high altitude sickness. He was saying that it is presenting something that is way different than the dogma of normal ARDS, and that something is not right and we need to figure it out. So he made a clarifying video. Now, I believe, and I've been trying to get a hold of Dr. Kyle Seidel. I sent him my contact information, and I'm hopefully could have a conversation either behind the scenes or actually recorded.
Nice. Okay.
But I've been trying to get a hold of him, and I mentioned in my communication with him that I think that it is the red blood cells being attacked by the virus through the CD147 pathway that we were talking about earlier, and that is disrupting the heme association with oxygen, and that I would have to investigate, but hopefully there is some sort of drug out there that helps to increase the affinity of oxygen. Now, let's go back to the Tour de France and Lance Armstrong. Well, they do blood doping.
That they do.
And what they do is they take red blood cells and they pump them up, and you have more red blood cells with oxygen, and you can perform better because you have more oxygen.
More oxygen, right?
Right. So I'm wondering if we do these kind of like blood transfusions for some of these patients, or a drug that does something similar, like an EPO, type drug.
That's like a steroid.
So, but yeah. So I mean, but the thing is that something that increases that affinity for oxygen or the production of more red blood cells as a short term.
Right.
And through that, they don't have to put them on the ventilator. And that way they're not causing more damage. It's true that when they're put on the ventilator.
The ventilator, right.
That it'll cause more damage, and they have to put it in low tidal wave. And that low tidal wave will reduce the damage, but they are doing damage. I believe
that.
But they don't know how to get the oxygen into the blood any better than the ventilator. Now it goes back to the idea that if the lungs aren't working, instead of forcing air into the lungs, maybe do ECMO, which is like a lung bypass, which is a standard procedure, but it's expensive. And you need it. You need surgeons. You need general surgeons to do this.
I was going to say that must be really expensive, though.
Right. But that's maybe the real answer.
Damn.
Is to put them on these lung machines, ECMO machines, and what will happen is that as they are healing, they will you're not causing the damage of forcing the airflow into the lung to oxygenate the blood. So I am more of a proponent of ECMO instead of ventilation for non-ARDS, and or some other therapeutic that increases red blood cells or increases the affinity of the heme group to capture oxygen.
Yes, and the death rate is just insane for those that will for sure die once they're hooked up to these ventilators. The last time I checked, it was like 75 to 85%.
Think about it. Think about it. If the real answer is to put people on a lung machine for a little while, you're talking about big costs to do that.
Oh yeah,
big costs. I mean, that's ventilators are. They're talking about how expensive making a ventilator. That's chicken. That's chicken feed.
Agreed.
Doing this surgery for the ECMO.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Mike.
Look how many we just recently ordered that have been manufactured that are being sent now to hospitals. I believe there was a car manufacturer that switched over to manufacture the ventilators and get them to hospitals, and I also believe there was a couple other companies that converted their factories so that they can create them. So now we've got all these ventilators that are going to come in, and yet now we're beginning to find out that there's a possibility that they may not be the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. And there is this debate: how many of the patients are ARDS versus how many patients are non-ARDS? Because I still believe that there is a certain percentage that are ARDS. And if they are ARDS, then it may be beneficial for them to be on the ventilator. But maybe most of the cases are non-ARDS. And that leads you to, because there's going to be some patients that have more, let's say, infection through the ACE2 and fluid buildup in the lung, but do not have the CD147 receptor infection. We do know that blood type is correlated, not causal. It hasn't been proved to be causal, but it is correlated to the infection. So if you're blood type A, you have a higher chance of getting COVID-19 versus blood type O. Well, why is that? We don't know. But there was a 1,775 person study in China showing this correlation. So there may be something, an antigen on the cell surface of red blood cells, I suspect it's CD147 that is upregulated for, certain blood type groups. And because of that, it attaches and gets in and infects the red blood cells. Now, those individuals that get infected, those are probably, if you have a high enough viral load, those are probably the non-ARDS patients. The ones that are not infected in the red blood cell, but are infected with just the ACE2 receptor and the AT2 cells that are in the air sac, then I would say that maybe the ventilator would work. So it's not a cookie cutter answer. Again, you have to look at the patient specific for treatment. But there is definitely something strange going on with the non-ARDS patients. And I did reach out to Cottrell and asked him to try to, contact me, because I believe that ECMO or some medication that would increase red blood cells might be the answer to this.
Now, Paul, we are coming to a close here. I just looked at the time, and I do appreciate you coming in here and hanging out with us and taking some calls. Love that. And Mike, do you have any questions for Dr. Paul Cottrell?
I think I got pretty much everything out I wanted to tonight. I want to say thank you to Doc. I apologize for having called you Paul all night.
No, don't worry about it. It's all right.
I appreciate it. Just a respect thing. But nevertheless, thank you so much for coming on the show and making me feel so depressed. But no, seriously, very knowledgeable, very in-depth, very educated. Thank you very much for coming on.
I enjoy it. I enjoy our talks. I think it's great.
Paul, Paul, before I let you go, there was one more question that I was being asked about, and I'm curious what your take was. Now we're starting to see people actually wearing the mask because it's mandatory in most places, I would have to imagine, obviously. But I'm seeing a lot of individuals driving with their masks on, and I'm sure you get these questions all the time too. But some of my listeners were wondering as well: is that even effective while you're actually driving in your car?
I mean, in reality, what's the probability of you catching in your own car, the virus?
Slim to none.
Now, if you're, right. But the thing is it also depends on if you are a first responder. If you're a first responder, yeah, because you're around patients that are sick, and you could easily have that virus on your clothing, and you could have it, brush off, or what we call is shed the virus into your car. And you want, so those individuals, you want to have masks on and, clean the car regularly. Disinfect the car. Yeah, that's my dog. But, the thing is, for the far majority of the people out there, wearing a mask in your car, I think is a bit, a little bit ridiculous.
I think it's a little dangerous. It's probably.
How is it dangerous?
I mean, it's probably obstructing your view. I mean, I've seen some people.
If you put it over your eyes, Michael, it might be dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
if you're putting your mask over your eyes,
I've seen people drive.
You might as well get COVID-19 because you're just too stupid.
I literally have seen people driving with the mask pulled like way up there, and it's like, are you sure you can see?
Oh my God! I mean, are these surfer dudes from California or what? God,
I'm in California for sure. There are some very unusual characters out here driving around. So,
I can just a standard mask, wearing it. I don't think really is helping if you're in a very private area all the time. Now, if you have people that are constantly coming in and out of your car,
well, that would make sense.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but most people don't have that.
If you're an Uber driver,
definitely, no doubt, Uber drivers, and not only the Uber driver, anyone using the Uber should be wearing a mask, because you don't know if someone was in that car breathing viral product. Breathing viral product out and shedding that virus. You don't know. And it's just to be safe, you should. If you're in a car sharing kind of situation, either a driver or a user, you need to wear a mask. But if you have your own car that no one is using, and what's the point? I don't understand that.
That's exactly my train of thought as well. If I own the car and I'm the only one in it, and I really don't see, or I don't understand how anyone could actually contract the virus while they're driving.
Unless you're a first responder, a doctor or a nurse, and on your clothing could shed.
Right.
It could be in the car, and if you don't have the mask, you breathe it in, and it gets into your lung.
Real quick question,
Jump
Doc.
in there, Mike.
How long does the virus or the bacteria per se? How long does it last? If it's just out in the air.
Well, if it's out in the air, it'll float down onto a surface, and it was known to live on a surface if the temperatures and the conditions were right, and it was low UV radiation and all that, then it could live up to as long as 9 days.
Wow.
But I would say the average is a day or two, especially if you move into warmer seasons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, warmer seasons. It'll help to kill the virus, and you got the ultraviolet radiation and all that.
Okay. I thought just the opposite, because I was under the impression that when the weather is cold, that's when it thrives.
But when it's right, let me rephrase it. When the weather is cold, it will thrive.
Right.
Because it's usually in an environment that doesn't have the ultraviolet radiation.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but if you're let's say more outside, and you're worried about contamination outside, then that ultraviolet and warm air and the warm climate will start to kill off in the aggregate the virus in the environment.
Thank you.
Very nice. Once again, Dr. Paul Cottrell, ladies and gentlemen, did a great job here, Paul. We went a pretty long time here, almost, about 3.5 hours now.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate coming on.
Yeah,
I enjoy talking to you guys.
It's always an honor and pleasure to have you here, Paul. We will have to do this again in the near future.
3 weeks.
Okay.
All right, Paul. Take care.
Take care, Paul.
Right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Mahalo. And there he goes, boys and girls, Dr. Paul Cottrell. I'd vote for him, Mike.
Heck yeah.
I'd vote for him in a minute.
Yep.
I don't see why not.
Wow. What a show, man. Another
fun.
Frightening show.
Did you have fun, Mike?
Absolutely. Had fun and educated myself once again with a very brilliant man. And Doc was brilliant too.
Of course. It was a good time, and we forgot to play this.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Michael and Mike of the Michael Decon Program. It's goddamn amazing.
Goddamn amazing.
Absolutely fantastic. Amazing.
It really
on a
is.
Night like this.
I really do enjoy that little intro there.
I like them both.
I have to play that every day.
Yeah. I don't know why you wouldn't. It's wonderful, man.
I forget.
Really?
It's that short-term memory when I see God. My memory goes away, Mike. You know that.
Oh, brother. Yeah.
It goes away. and then sometimes, you have to bring it back to Jesus.
He received. Don't you dare.
Yes. Now. Say it, I take it. I take it. I have it.
Every night, Mike.
It's mine. It's mine.
I've been torturing
I
you.
thank you and praise you for it. Yes. And I forgive if I have aught against any. And I praise you that I'm well and whole.
This is for your own good, Mike.
Yes. According to the word of God. According to the word of God. I'm healed.
I'm trying to save your life here.
And I
Jesus.
consider not my own body.
Yes, consider not my own body.
I consider not symptoms in my body.
I consider not symptoms in my body.
But only that which God has promised.
Only that which God has.
Only that what the Word has said.
Only that what the Word.
And by His stripes I was healed. And by His stripes I am healed now. I'm not the sick trying to get healed. I'm the healed and the devil's trying to give me the flu.
That's right.
That's right.
Or whatever else kind of thing he's trying.
Yeah.
Healed and well.
Yes.
In the sweet name of Jesus.
Glory to God.
Oh, Jesus.
Sweet baby Jane. Jesus.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, Mike.
Hallelujah.
I'm so happy I heard that. I feel better already.
Do you? Good.
I got the coronavirus out of me.
Good. The power of Christ compels you.
That's right, Mike. And once again, I do want to thank you, Mr. Mike Hideous, for being a part of the program yet again. What a night it was. And before we pull this Larry Silverstein style, I want to thank everyone in the chat room. And remember, you can get a hold of me via Twitter if you'd like, at Michael Decon. And Mike, go ahead and plug anything you'd like.
Thank you, sir. I want to say thank you to Mr. Decon, as always, for a wonderful show and having me as his co-host. I want to say thank you to Dr. Paul Cottrell for a fascinating, in-depth, educating interview that we did tonight with him.
Oh, solid.
Say again?
I said it was solid.
Oh, no doubt. And lastly, if you're interested, I have some new paintings that I just had updated to, or I should say, posted on my website. You can see these paintings as well as the rest of my artwork and photographs at horribleartwork.com. That's horribleartwork.com. And if you're interested in any of my music that I've done over the years, you can see photographs, videos, and buy merchandise like T-shirts and CDs and all that jazz at MikeHideous.com. And that's Mike, M-Y-K-E, hideous.com. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening.
And of course, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can take the show on the road with you. Download the podcast rendition of the show.
You said load.
I know. I was thinking of dropping a load. all the porn and weed, Mike. According to Forbes. But yes, download the podcast rendition of this program. You can find that on iTunes, Stitcher, Castbox, which I like, and of course Spotify. And international listeners out there, thank you so much for your support. Canada, Germany, Guten Morgen, the UK, and Australia. I see you out there. And yes, Mike, this has been a top talent show yet again.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We really love you. Thank you.
And Mike, what does the future have in store for us? I sure as shit don't know, but it's 100 seconds to midnight on the doomsday clock.
Wow.
Pretty frightening, right?
Oh, you saw that? You're not kidding.
No, I'm not kidding.
Wow.
I am not kidding.
Oh, my goodness gracious me.
Now, whatever it is that you do choose to believe out there, remember, you must adapt now. All control has been lost, Mike, and we are looking into the abyss without a rescue party in sight, Mike.
100 seconds. Holy crap.
Oh, yes, there's nothing more frightening than reality, Mike. You know that.
Yeah. And the scariest thing about all of this, Michael, is that this is scientific science without an answer or a cure currently.
My goodness. Say goodnight, Mike.
Good night, folks. Good night, Michael. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
See you soon. Take care, Mike.
Take care.
Oh, yes. And with that said, the world is a mysterious place, and life itself is a mystery. Until next time, good night, everybody.